Chapter 771. Yu thought someone would step out to comfort her, even if it was just a sentence or two. But the other four quickly covered their ears and pretended not to hear a thing. They simply treated Yu like she was crazy and did not bother to step out to respond. Yu put on an act for nothing. But the next morning, before everyone had woken up, she diligently prepared breakfast. That's right, she used all the ingredients they had to prepare a scrumptious breakfast. As soon as Huangfu Shua saw this, he sneered without saying a word. Afterwards, it was the old singer's turn. The first thing he did after waking up was take his pet for a stroll. Finally, it was the young couple's turn to wash up. As soon as they saw the breakfast Yu had prepared, they looked at each other. Although they did not say a word. "It's great that everyone is awake. I've already prepared breakfast," Yu said with a smile. Yu smiled and said to everyone, "Come and eat. After we finish eating, we can continue on our journey." Yu waited for everyone to praise her, but no one was willing to do so. In fact, a young woman even sat down beside Yu and asked, "We indeed have breakfast, but what about lunch? You've used up all the ingredients we have." Yu was a little surprised. She then pointed to the cameraman and said, "Don't we have food supplies?" "Miss Bai, did you seriously look at the rules before coming on this show? Who told you that you could receive outside help while surviving in the wild?" Yu was completely stunned. Her eyes turned red from being criticized. "I simply wanted to reward everyone for their hard work. I even woke up early." "You've worked hard. You can have breakfast on your own. We need to continue on our journey. Your leg is injured, so you should stay in this safe place. We will come back to look for you." "My leg is fine." Hearing that they were going to leave her behind again, Yu quickly stood up and took a few steps forward to indicate that she was fine. "Okay, since that's the case, let's all eat something and start looking for other clues." The young man acted like nothing had happened as he reminded everyone to quickly replenish their energy. As she wished, Yu rejoined the group. But she still had to carry her luggage on her back. In reality, due to the lack of food and tents, the weight everyone had to carry was a lot lighter than the previous day. But Yu still felt tired, so she had to take a break after every few steps. Everyone else was busy searching for clues, but Yu was like a headless fly as she followed behind them. She felt like she was an insignificant existence. "We finally found a numeric password. There are still 3 more. If we can't find them before nightfall, we'll consider it a failure. But I'm so hungry. There's not much food left in my backpack. It's all been used for breakfast," the young woman said as she subconsciously looked at Yu. "I really didn't do it on purpose." Yu immediately apologized guiltily. "Forget it, it's normal for you to encounter all sorts of accidents in the wilderness. You can't blame Jia. Let's continue forward." The young man immediately tried to help Yu out. "But we need to head up the mountain to look for new clues." The young woman didn't want to continue forward with Yu. After all, it was better to take the old singer with them. Although the old singer's stamina was not as good as the young man's, he was very quick-witted and often came in handy. Yu, on the other hand, was purely a joke. "I can hold on." Yu immediately said, "I won't be a burden to you guys anymore." The young woman looked at the young man and the young man looked into the distance. Huangfu Shua followed the old singer from the beginning to the end. The two of them moved forward in tacit understanding. In the end, the young woman had no choice but to say to Yu, "In that case, hurry up." The path up the mountain was difficult to begin with. But because they were waiting for Yu, everyone's progress was quite slow. In the end, the young woman couldn't take it anymore and suggested that she go up first. In order to protect his girlfriend, the young man also sped up. Seeing how desperate the two were to win, Yu said to them, "You guys walk in front. I'll carry the things. That way, we can save you a lot of time." The young woman rolled her eyes in the dark. Couldn't Yu be a little less mischievous? She was already at a time like this, yet she was still trying to show off. Why was she being considerate of others? At this time, the production team's helicopter finally landed in front of them. It was time to eliminate the contestants. The young woman had been looking forward to this moment. She was so unlucky that she ended up participating in the same show as Yu. The staff handed over a pen and paper and said to the group, Write down the burden or person you want to leave behind. Or, perhaps, you want to stick together until the end. Now is the time to make your decision. Baiyu glanced at the group. She was well aware of the style of the show. The 5 of them would definitely stick together and no one would be left behind. So, she directly gave up and did not write down anyone's name. It didn't take long before the staff collected all of their notes and said, "Now is the time to reveal your answers. All of you should be prepared to be eliminated at any time." Baiyu wasn't worried at all. But the others had a tacit understanding. Afterwards, the staff opened the paper and randomly picked out a piece of paper. Baiyu, eliminated. Baiyu was a little surprised. She looked at the group and smiled awkwardly before waving her hand. "It's fine, it's fine." A moment later, the staff opened the second piece of paper and revealed a meaningful smile. Baiyu, eliminated. 2 votes. "I never thought that I would make you guys so unhappy." Baiyu, eliminated. 3 votes. "As for the last piece of paper, I don't think I need to open it." Baiyu's elimination is already a foregone conclusion. "Are you sure this is the result you want?" the staff asked. The group looked at each other and nodded their heads in unison. As a result, Baiyu was completely eliminated. Baiyu never imagined that, after so many years of hosting the show, she would become the first artist to be rejected by the other members of the show to the point of being voted out. That's right, she was directly eliminated. In other words, the content that followed had nothing to do with her. "I know I've caused a lot of trouble for you guys and that's why you hate me. But, am I really as bad as you think I am?" The girl did not say a word. Huang Fu Shuo was squatting on the floor playing with his dog and the old singer was trying to figure out the clues. Only the young man dared to respond, "You are suitable to be an actress and you are suitable to be glamorous. But, you are not suitable to participate in any reality show. Because, from start to finish, you have been acting as yourself. Baiyu, please board the helicopter." "Baiyu, you have been eliminated." As a result, everyone that watched the program let out a sigh. Why is Baiyu so fake? Chapter 772. Participating in a reality show is insane. I've never seen such a pretentious artist before. She deserves to be eliminated. This is obviously a team show, yet she keeps trying to show off and drag the team down. She's crazy. From the start, she acted like she didn't want to walk and wanted to carry her on her back. Unfortunately, no one bought her act. Baiyu's personality isn't bad, but she likes to be in the limelight. If I had a friend like her in my life, I would be scared. To put it bluntly, she's a pretentious bitch and a white lotus. Her acting was too obvious. No wonder she was eliminated by her teammates. I watched the rest of the show. Without Baiyu, everything returned to normal. Baiyu wanted to display her high EQ in front of everyone. But she was too narcissistic. On a reality show, who would be willing to buy into her act? So, even though she was scolded by the audience, she 100% deserved it. This almost made Baiyu explode in front of the staff. Why didn't they say anything when they had been targeting her from the start? So, after disembarking from the plane, she headed into the bathroom to vent her anger. It didn't take long before her assistant came to pick her up. After boarding the van, Baiyu smashed everything in the van and even hit her assistant in the face with her phone. However, she had no idea that the paparazzi were following closely behind the van. The scene of her throwing a tantrum in the van had already been captured by them. Wasn't his high EQ and good-tempered persona about to collapse? Baiyu had no idea what was happening as she rushed home. But, just as she opened the front door, she heard a commotion coming from the bedroom. Baiyu tilted her head to listen and pushed open the bedroom door. Inside, she found Bai Lin and her husband lying on the bed passionately kissing each other. At that moment, Baiyu looked at everything that was happening in the room in shock. Especially the 2 naked women. All of a sudden, he had forgotten what kind of reaction he should make. "Wifey, why are you home?" "Sis." At this time, Baiyu felt like she had been struck by lightning as her face turned red. She felt dirty and humiliated. She never imagined that the 2 people closest to her would be cheating on her. "Bai Lin, you're amazing. You actually seduced your brother-in-law. Seeing that her cover had been exposed, Bai Linlin no longer tried to hide as she wrapped herself in a blanket and said to Bai Yu, "Sis, to be honest, I'm already pregnant with brother-in-law's child and we plan to give birth to it." Bai Yu's assistant was still standing outside, yet Bai Linlin dared to say such a thing. Bai Yu pushed her assistant out of the room and was about to step forward and slap Bai Linlin across the face. But she was stopped by the only man in the room. "Bai Yu, have you had enough? Linlin's pregnant. So, should I fulfill your wishes, or should the three of us live happily together? Let me tell you, this is impossible. I can't let this child be born. Otherwise, the three of us will fight to the death. Are you crazy? This is a matter between us adults. There's no need to involve the children. Did you think about me when you were having an affair?" Bai Yu yelled. "But why did it have to be my sister and husband? Bai Linlin, do you have any sense of shame? That's enough." The man grabbed onto Bai Yu's wrist and pushed her away. "Since that's the case, let's get a divorce. I'll take Linlin back to the US. "Divorce?" Bai Yu looked at the man and sneered as tears rolled down her cheeks. "That's impossible. If worse comes to worst, we'll destroy each other." "Unreasonable." After speaking, the man dragged Bai Linlin past Bai Yu and left the room. Meanwhile, Bai Yu felt like her body had been hollowed out as she felt an indescribable pain. Her assistant was standing outside the door and witnessed the entire process. As she watched Bai Yu fall to the ground, she immediately ran over to help her up. "Yu Jia, are you okay? The two sluts want to be together? Don't even think about it. But, Yu Jia, if you expose yourself, you will be the one to suffer." Bai Yu's image was no longer what it used to be. Especially after the reality show, if Bai Yu was to get a divorce, even though it was her husband who cheated on her, it would still be a black mark on her. "Let's discuss this matter at length. Don't be rash." Bai Yu held onto her assistant's hand tightly. It was obvious that she was on the verge of breaking down. "But why is God punishing me like this?" But this wasn't the end of it. The paparazzi even released a video of Bai Yu venting her anger on her assistant. In a short period of time, Bai Yu's high EQ and easygoing image collapsed like a tower that had lost its foundations. Seeing Bai Yu's pitiful state, Tongning calmed down. After all, ever since concubine Ning, the gap between her and Bai Yu had grown bigger and bigger. So, she no longer needed to care about Bai Yu. Even so, the people around him still felt that they had vented some of their anger. Above all, Long Jie had recently received news that Bai Yu's marriage had changed. Of course, Tongning already knew about this because Nziheo had already given her the evidence. But, Tongning had never mentioned this to anyone. If the rumor that Bai Yu's marriage had changed, then was that she had already ruined Bai Linlin and her husband's plans. That kind of blow should be the one that could destroy heaven and earth. Right? "Hey, when I mentioned this, why didn't you react at all?" Long Jie asked as she held up her pregnant belly. "I'm the one who should be curious. You're obviously about to give birth, so why is Lu Che letting you wander around?" Tongning said as she glared at Long Jie. "Plus, I already knew about this a long time ago. Previously, I simply treated it as a bargaining chip. Who would have thought that Bai Yu would lose so badly, so I forgot about it." "You didn't forget. You knew that you didn't even need to do anything. Bai Yu would eventually find out," Long Jie scoffed. When it came to dealing with her enemies, Tongning never showed mercy. For Bai Yu, her life would be worse than death. So, from now on, we don't need to focus on her. Tongning still had a long way to go. But Bai Yu seemed to have reached the end of her road. The winner had already been decided, so there was no need to dwell on it any longer. "That's right. You are the hottest candidate for Best Actress at the Fei Tian Awards." Long Jie smiled. At this moment, looking at Tongning, Long Jie felt like she could see the light in front of her. "But Guogua has been running a fever for the past 2 days. The doctor said it's because he's developing slowly in his mother's womb and hasn't absorbed enough nutrients. His body is slightly worse than Tang Tang's." Tongning did not forget that she was the mother of 2 babies. Chapter 773. Children are all like this. Their immune systems are weak. You don't need to worry too much. Ever since Long Jie became pregnant, she had become an expert in this field. Plus, there are so many people at home to take care of them. Your worries are unnecessary. Tongning looked at the two rascals taking a nap as her heart filled with worry. No matter how many people there were at home to take care of them, her mother's position was irreplaceable. At the same time, she would always have an unforgettable feeling towards her two babies. After filming The Forensic Concubine, Tongning visited director Chen Feng once at the hospital. Seeing the old man's legs slowly recovering, she felt a lot more relaxed. I originally thought that The Forensic Concubine still had some important scenes that weren't filmed and would affect the broadcast. I never expected President Mo to change the sequence and make the final climax of the film. Actually, there are still around 10 more episodes to go. What a shame, Director Chen Feng said regretfully. Director Chen Feng said regretfully, because we didn't film the last part, we can't broadcast it. Everyone feels that this ending has a different flavor. Although it's not as satisfying as the original, it's still a rare piece of work, Tongning replied with a smile. Director Chen Feng smiled as he looked at Tongning in seriousness. Director Chen, do you have something to say to me? Director Chen Feng pulled out a script from under his pillow and handed it to Tongning. He then said in a serious tone, I recommended you to the production. I'm sure this film will be amazing with your performance. Tongning received the script and had a look. The name of the film was Survivor. This story is based on a real incident from 20 years ago. It was a plane crash in Beijing. I've looked through the script and the main character is attractive. So, I recommended you to the production. Go home and have a good look at it before you make a decision. Thank you, Director Chen. You won't even get to wear a clean set of clothes or have a proper meal during the entire filming, let alone your image. You'll look like a crazy woman. Many actresses are afraid of ruining their image, so they don't dare to take the role, but I believe in you. Director Chen Feng believed that Tongning, who had changed careers for the sake of acting, wouldn't care about her image as long as she was given a good role. I will look through the script, Tongning promised in seriousness. Tongning promised Chen Feng in seriousness. However, unlike in the past, this time, the script in her hands felt heavy. This was a movie adapted from a true story, so if she took on the role, she would be given a new mission, and she would feel that she had a great responsibility. This type of disaster film was somewhat similar to WH, but it was also very different. This was because WH was more about imagination and gave the audience a visual impact and experience. However, Survivor was different. This was a true story that had actually happened. Therefore, the feeling it brought to the audience was reality. Of course, Tongning had no idea that this film, Survivor, had broken all the box office records in film history and helped her reach unprecedented heights. Of course, that was a story for another time. After returning home, Tongning handed the script to Mo Ting. Old man Chen gave this to me. Mo Ting put down the documents in his hands, grabbed the script and flipped through it. Elder Chen really understands you. So you approve of me filming Survivor, right? What reason do I have to reject? Mo Ting asked straightforwardly. Tongning didn't know why, but the thought of acting in this film made her feel excited. In fact, she even went into the nursery to hug and kiss the babies. Perhaps, others might not understand why, but Mo Ting knew exactly what Tongning was thinking. Because Survivor was extremely challenging and the characters in the film were extremely attractive to Tongning. Above all, Mo Ting had a feeling. This film was going to make Tongning the queen of the film industry. Survivor was produced by the National Film Corporation and was under the jurisdiction of Beijing officials. When they were recruiting actors, they clearly stated that the pay was very low and that it would ruin the actress's image. With such a heavy topic, coupled with all sorts of restrictions, many actresses stopped in their tracks. But Tongning agreed to the job without any expectations regarding her salary or image. The officials directly announced that Tongning would be the female lead of Survivor. This result was within the expectations of most people. For a role like this that tested one's acting skills, not to mention being old, ugly, and receiving zero pay. Even if they wanted her to throw herself at it, she would still do it. So, the public started to ridicule Tongning. No wonder Tongning was able to gain everyone's approval so quickly. As long as it's a good script, she would do anything to get it done. Tongning is extremely thirsty for a good drama, and of course, it's a guarantee of a good one. An actress like Tongning should be treated like a national treasure. Because we don't have to worry about her doing the same thing in every film, people are always full of anticipation for her work. Everyone in the industry was optimistic about Tongning taking on Survivor. Of course, there were also people that were jealous. I refuse to believe that there's an actress that doesn't care about her image. Just wait and see, Tongning will definitely regret it. If she messes up in a film like this, her job will be ruined. It would be strange if she doesn't drown in saliva. Does she really think she's a national treasure? Isn't she overestimating herself a little too much? Regardless, the news of Tongning being cast as the female lead of Survivor created a huge reaction. But what was Bai Yu doing at this time? Ever since Bai Linlin and her husband cheated on each other, Bai Yu no longer hated Tongning as much as she did before. No matter how much people hated Tongning, at least she didn't steal her husband or destroy her family. Yet, Bai Linlin as her biological sisters. Thinking of this, Bai Yu felt extremely disgusted. Especially after laying all their cards on the table, Bai Linlin and Jeff became even more fearless in front of Bai Yu, yet, there was nothing Bai Yu could do. As a public figure, she couldn't even get justice for herself. While everyone's tempers are still fine, you should sign the divorce papers. Otherwise, no one will look good. Bai Yu wanted to yell at Jeff to get lost, but this was a house that Jeff bought, so she had no right to do so. If she left, she was sure that Bai Linlin would not feel guilty and would simply take over her home. If that happened, she would be dreaming if she wanted to come back. I've never seen someone act so righteously after an affair. Even if I break up with Linlin, I can't continue living with you. I can. As long as I can make you suffer, I don't care what it is, I will do it. Chapter 774. At this time, Bai Linlin walked out of the bedroom and raised an eyebrow at Bai Yu. Sis, why are you doing this? Shut your mouth. You have no right to speak here. Bai Yu yelled. Jeff has wanted to be a father for a long time, but for the sake of your career, you've decided not to give birth to a child for him. It doesn't matter, as long as you have me, you can continue to work hard. I'll take care of Jeff, Bai Linlin said as she leaned into Jeff's embrace. Her voice was filled with arrogance. Bai Yu looked at Bai Linlin for quite some time. In the end, she squeezed out one word from between her teeth, bitch. Sign it. Jeff once again placed the divorce papers in front of Bai Yu and forcefully held onto her hand as he forced her to sign them. Get lost. You adulterer and adulterer. You're an inhumane couple. Bai Yu tore the divorce papers to shreds like crazy and threw the pen in her hand to one side, causing a loud crash. Sooner or later, you will still need to sign it. Jeff was not in a rush. He looked deeply into Bai Yu's eyes before he hugged Bai Linlin and led her into the master bedroom right in front of Bai Yu. Bai Yu directly threw something at the door. The hatred in her heart had already reached the sky. She had never thought that such a vulgar plot would happen to her. She could laugh it off when she heard other people's stories, but when it happened to her, she just wanted to kill the pair of bitches in the room. Bitch. She wanted to give birth to the child? Don't even think about it. Plus, she understood Bai Linlin better than anyone else. After all, Bai Linlin was still young, so she loved to be vain and admired. So, making the child in Bai Linlin's stomach disappear wasn't a difficult task. With this thought, Bai Yu pulled out her phone and gave a familiar person a phone call. Soon, Bai Linlin received a phone call asking her to attend an audition. An audition? Bai Linlin never expected that someone would remember her. So, she said excitedly to Jeff, Darling, I will be attending a banquet tomorrow night because a director has invited me to film a film. As soon as Jeff heard this, he yelled, You're already pregnant. Why would you film a film? Tongning can film even when she's pregnant. Why can't I? Don't worry, I'll take good care of our child. Just let me meet the director, even if it's just a meeting, so that I can fulfill my wish. Bai Linlin clasped her hands together and said sincerely, I swear, I won't accept it. I'm just going to have a meal. Knowing that someone still remembers me, I'm content. After you go to the United States, as long as you give birth to a child, I can still let you become an actress. I can make you famous. Why do you have to rush now? Although Jeff liked Bai Linlin's youthful body, most of the time, her thoughts made him scratch his head in frustration. Honey, just let me go. As you wish. There was nothing Jeff could do. All he could do was slam the door and leave. Meanwhile, Bai Linlin had no idea that this was a trap set up by Bai. So, the next afternoon as she left home, Bai Linlin deliberately showed off in front of Bai. I don't think anyone would ask me to act in a film anymore. After all, my sister's perfect image has been completely destroyed. But what should I do? I previously contacted Director Chin and he asked me to go for an audition. Although the role is small, doesn't that mean I still have hope and you have no chance? Bai Linlin circled around in front of Bai Yu and scanned her from head to toe. I'm sorry, sister. I didn't mean to steal everything from you, but I really like brother-in-law too much. So, I suggest you let go. Otherwise, you will end up in an even more miserable state. I guarantee. After speaking, Bai Linlin left the house. As for Bai Yu, she followed Bai Linlin's gaze with a deeper meaning. Jeff couldn't stop Bai Linlin, otherwise, the couple would end up in an argument. This was one of the things he didn't understand about women. She was obviously pregnant, yet she insisted on attending a banquet. Director Chin did Bai Yu a favor because he had a good impression of her. So, he actually hosted a banquet for Bai Linlin along with a few other staff members. Bai Linlin felt like she was being valued. She actually thought someone had invited her to act in a film. So, even when someone tried to force her to drink alcohol, she accepted it all. She didn't want to reveal the fact that she was pregnant. Because if she did, not only would she not be able to go for an audition, but she would also leave after hearing about it. So, that night, Bai Linlin drank quite a bit of alcohol. By the time she arrived home, her entire body reeked of alcohol. This made Jeff furious. He grabbed onto Bai Linlin's wrist and asked, Did you drink? I only drank a little. Bai Linlin mumbled unhappily. But a second later, Jeff threw a slap across her face. You fucking crazy woman. How could you drink alcohol when you're pregnant? Do you have any common sense? I drank it. What do you think? Nothing happened to the child, right? Jeff sneered. He suddenly realized that all the Bai sisters, regardless of whether they were older or younger, were different. So, he decided to ignore Bai Linlin. But not long after, Bai Linlin held onto her stomach and screamed, Jeff, my stomach hurts. Jeff looked down and saw that Bai Linlin's lower body was covered in blood. From the looks of it, the child wasn't going to be safe. The child hadn't even formed yet this slut ran out to drinks. Didn't she deserve it? Jeff, save me, it hurts. However, Jeff did not budge an inch as he threw Bai Linlin's hand away and said, Save you? Who can you blame for taking the child out to drink? Slut, you're the same as your sister, you're also a slut. You don't listen to me, so I can't possibly save you. You can just stay here and die on your own. After speaking, Jeff left the bedroom, leaving Bai Linlin to sit on the floor and moan in pain. Soon, Bai Yu appeared outside Bai Linlin's bedroom door. As she looked at the scene in front of her, her lips curved upwards. Sis, save me. Save me. Of course I will save you. But I want you to have a taste of this before I save you. Bai Yu crossed her arms and stood calmly in front of Bai Linlin's bedroom door. It wasn't until Bai Linlin completely fainted from the pain that Bai Yu called the ambulance. Afterwards, Bai Linlin was sent to the hospital. Of course, the child couldn't be saved. But most importantly, it attracted a large number of reporters. And this time, Bai Yu did not avoid the questions. She did not avoid them at all. She was no longer the Bai Yu that cared about everything. This time, she decided to be herself again. Chapter 775. Bai Yu, may I ask if Bai Linlin really had a miscarriage? In that case, did she get pregnant out of wedlock? Can you tell us who the father of the child in Bai Linlin's stomach is? Under normal circumstances, when a reporter asked a sharp question like this, no artist would respond seriously because it was too rude. The reporters never expected that Bai Yu would actually respond. So, a lot of the questions were simply asked to create hype. But, facing the black hole of the camera, Bai Yu remained silent at first. After a while, she finally said, "That's right, Bai Linlin is indeed pregnant." As soon as the reporters heard this, they looked at each other and asked, "Then, who is the father? How did Bai Linlin have a miscarriage? Why did Bai Linlin have a miscarriage?" Hearing this question, Bai Yu suddenly felt it was quite funny. She ruined someone else's family, so she deserved a miscarriage. The reporters had never seen Bai Yu like this before. She had always maintained a good image and high EQ in front of the cameras. But, for some reason this time, Bai Yu did not hold back at all. It was like she had suddenly become a different person. She ruined someone else's family, so she deserved a miscarriage. Even so, Bai Linlin was still her own sister. Didn't Bai Yu feel heartache at all? "Miss Bai, can you be more specific? Whose family did Bai Linlin break into?" After hearing this question, Bai Yu gestured for the reporter to turn the camera towards Bai Linlin. "Please focus on that person and remember the consequences of ruining someone's family. She's not ruining someone else's family, she's ruining her own sister's family. When I wasn't around, she hooked up with my husband's. After I get home, I will announce my divorce. I know, if this matter is announced, I will become a laughingstock in the industry. I don't want to stay here any longer, so I will return to the US. But before that, I hope this adulterous couple will receive the punishment they deserve. Although Bai Linlin is my sister, I don't want to forgive her. Plus, from today onwards, she will no longer be my sister. As for the details of the seduction, I think it's more appropriate for you to ask the person in question. Also, from now on, please don't disturb my life anymore. I admit defeat. I don't want anything, I just want some peace. I hope you reporters can fulfill my wish." After speaking, Bai Yu pushed the reporters away and left the hospital with her head held high. "I've wanted to get into trouble for a long time. I've wanted to, after pretending for so long and for so many years, she had had enough. Now this was just the right time." Above all, she was convinced by Tongning. Not only was she a good person or her acting skills, but she had never let anyone down. So, she lived an honest life. On the other hand, she had done so many things that she shouldn't have. Now that she was betrayed by Bai Linlin and her husband, she felt she deserved it. Perhaps, he had done a lot of things wrong. This time, after she became calm, she felt more relaxed than before. It didn't take long before Bai Yu returned home to pack her luggage. But, Jeff suddenly appeared in the living room and tried to stop her. "Darling, what are you doing? Bai Linlin is at the hospital. You should go see her." "Wifey, I was wrong." Jeff took a few steps back and knelt down with a thud. "But it's too late," Bai Yu said coldly. "You and that bitch, Bai Linlin, can die together. I'm going to sign the divorce papers." After speaking, Bai Yu dragged her luggage and left the house. Meanwhile, the man behind her kicked the chair beside him in regret. It was over. Everything had come to an end. Bai Yu packed her luggage and immediately returned to the US. But, before she left a note for Tongning. Ting received it at Hai Rui and returned home to hand it to Tongning. It was a strange feeling to receive something from one's enemy. But, Tongning still opened the envelope to see what was written inside. In reality, there was nothing else. It simply said, "You've won. You've won fair and square." It seems Bai Yu has suffered a huge blow. The pain of being betrayed by two people is naturally deep. Ting looked at Tongning in seriousness. He was reminded of the time when Tongning was betrayed by Han Yufan. At that time, she was completely reborn and had a fresh start. So, the power of hatred shouldn't be underestimated. Bai Yu is smart. I'm sure she'll get over it soon. After speaking, Tongning put down the envelope. Of course, she was also concerned about Bai Linlin's fate. The hospital was completely surrounded by reporters. Bai Linlin was now isolated and helpless. After waking up, all she could do was stare at the cameras in a daze. The incident had already been exposed. For a woman in her early 20s, being scolded as a mistress by the entire nation was not something an ordinary person could handle. Most importantly, the jerk that hurt the two sisters. The industry sure is messy. Bai Yu was just appearing on a show a few days ago, yet she's about to leave the industry. TSK, to be betrayed by her sister and husband. Just thinking about it makes me feel bad. Bai Linlin is such a bitch. How could she seduce her brother-in-law behind her sister's back? If I was in her position, I would definitely make her beg for death. But didn't Bai Yu always maintain the image of a gentle big sister next door? After she found out about her sister and husband's affair, it seems she couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. The two sisters aren't good people. But Bai Linlin is even worse than Bai Yu. According to Long Jie's understanding, after Bai Yu left Beijing, the jerk Jeff also followed her back to the US. As a result, Bai Linlin became known as a slut. After staying in the hospital for a few days, she disappeared without a trace. It seemed she couldn't handle the pressure, so she went into hiding. A few days later, Long Jie heard that Bai Linlin's mental state was a little abnormal. Of course, it didn't matter if she was pretending or not, she deserved it. In comparison, Chen Xingyan's development was a lot smoother. But not everyone's journey was smooth sailing. Chen Xingyan was lucky. Thanks to Enzaheo's methods, the roles she received were becoming more and more important and her screen time was also increasing. But compared to Tongning, she still had a long way to go. Let's cancel all of your jobs tonight. Let's sneak out on a date tonight. Seeing that she had worked so hard for so long and hadn't asked for any compensation, Enzaheo agreed. Chen Xingyan was excited as she prepared to leave the house. But as soon as she opened the front door, she was shocked by the man that suddenly appeared. The man that had disappeared since she was 6 years old was currently standing right in front of her. In his hand was a 10-year-old boy. Xingyan. Chen Xingyan didn't understand the situation in front of her. She simply stood there in a daze until Enzaheo held her from behind. How did you find this place? Chapter 776. The filming environment for Survivor was obviously going to be tough. In order to film the film well, apart from taking care of the babies, Tongning spent all her time training her body. As a result, she looked healthier and healthier. In fact, her waistline was clearly visible on her abdomen. After the incident with Bai Yu was over, the Beijing entertainment industry returned to normal. While Tongning prepared for her role, she also updated her fans on her recent situation. However, 1 month before the start of filming for Survivor, Mo Ting's ears started ringing due to his long period of fatigue. Mo Ting purposely hid it from Tongning, so Tongning had no idea that Lu Che had taken time off to accompany the baby. So, only Mo Ting knew about his condition. That night, after feeding the babies, Tongning stood behind Mo Ting and told him about Chen Xingyan's father. But, for the first time, Mo Ting did not respond. Tongning called out suspiciously, but Mo Ting did not hear a word. He simply leaned against the side of the crib and fell asleep. Seeing this, Tongning's heart ached a little. On the outside, Mo Ting was the decision-maker at Hai Rui. From morning till night, there were countless things waiting for him to decide. But, after returning home, he was the father of 2 children, so he had to help take care of them. Tongning fed them once every few hours, but he was always by her side and never once did he miss out. Was he tired? Tongning couldn't help but put down the babies and approach Mo Ting. However, as soon as she reached out her hand to touch the man's body, Tongning immediately realized that not only had Mo Ting fallen asleep, his body was also burning up. It was winter and the weather was freezing cold. Although the heater was always on at home. Thinking about how Mo Ting kept waking up to take care of Guogua, Tongning felt a little guilty. So, She immediately gave Xia Yuling a phone call and asked her to come over and take care of the babies. After Xia Yuling arrived, the two women helped Ting upstairs to his bedroom. Don't just focus on yourself all day. You should also take care of Ting. The babies are important, but does that mean the father isn't? Xia Yuling nagged. From the moment you got married, Ting has never done anything wrong. You should take care of his health too. He's busy with work, but he still has to worry about you when he's home. But I'll leave the babies in your hands. Take good care of him, Xia Yuling instructed before she ran downstairs to look after her two grandsons. Tongning immediately helped Ting change his clothes, wiped his body clean and cooled him down. But he did not wake up. He was still in a deep sleep. Looking at Ting's sleeping face, Tongning couldn't help but reflect on herself. Ting had already endured so much for her, yet she took it more and more for granted. Since they were husband and wife, she never felt that a man was born to protect and love a woman. There was no love that could last forever just because one party dotes on the other. Girls outside always yearned for handsome and rich men who could dote on them for a lifetime, but feelings were mutual. If one party gave and tolerated the other for a long time, then the relationship would eventually come to an end. Men were also easily tired. The reason why Tongning received so much love from Ting was because she was determined to improve herself and doted on Ting. Ting was well aware that for him, Tongning was willing to give up everything, even her life. Only by doing it for each other could a relationship like this last. In love, there was no room for selfishness. She originally thought with how tired Ting was, he wouldn't wake up that night. But at 2 a.m., he suddenly moved, waking up Tongning who was sitting by his bedside. What's wrong? Seeing Tongning was still awake, Ting propped himself up and looked around. After a few seconds, he finally asked, "Why aren't you asleep yet? Did you know you had a fever?" Tongning sat up from the sofa and leaned into Ting's embrace. "Did you know you scared me? I'm fine. It's just that I've been a little busy lately." "Why did you suddenly wake up?" Tongning refused to believe his nonsense. He obviously woke up last night, that's why he had a fever. "Normally, at this time, I would be feeding the two rascals milk." Ting let out a sigh of relief. Ting let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps it's a biological clock. As soon as it's time, I naturally wake up. After hearing this, Tongning's tears naturally rolled down her cheeks. "How could you have so much love for me and our child? Did you know, by acting like this, you're drowning me in your love?" "So, the child. Mom is taking care of it," Tongning replied. "Tomorrow, I'll ask Lu Che to arrange a plane ticket to the Maldives. Let's go relax for a few days." "I'm fine. You need to rest," Tongning said in seriousness. "I'm not discussing this with you. Listen to me, okay?" Ting looked deeply into Tongning's eyes and finally pulled her into his embrace. "Give me some time to organize my work before you leave, okay?" "Okay," Tongning nodded. Sometimes, Tongning couldn't help but wonder if she was too stubborn to make Ting so tired. If she didn't choose to return to filming and instead stayed at home to take care of him and the child, would Ting be a lot more relaxed? So, after the filming of Survivor, Tongning had other plans in mind. Ting lowered his head and looked at Tongning. He noticed there was something different in her expression. But even so, he could see through her with one glance. "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Don't even think about returning to the family," Ting warned as he hooked his arm around Tongning's neck. Of course, Ting was still Ting. Just because he was sick didn't mean he wasn't the domineering and black-bellied king. Tongning looked at him in surprise as she rubbed her cheek against his neck. After confirming that his fever had subsided, she let out a sigh of relief. "You are a natural actress. I won't allow you to have any other thoughts." "Then, you better promise not to get sick again," Tongning threatened. "You should know how much my heart aches for you." After hearing this, Ting hugged Tongning tightly in his arms. Throughout the long years of his life, he had once felt that time was unusually difficult. But, ever since he fell in love with Tongning, he felt that even if he was given another 100 years, he wouldn't feel like time was torturous. Going to the Maldives, right? Now that he thought about it, it had been a long time since the couple had gone on a holiday. Of course, if the couple had known that something so big had happened to someone close to them because of their departure, Tongning would not have been in such a rush to leave the country. Her father was back. But Qin Xingyan was not excited at all. Not only had her father remarried, he even had a 10-year-old son with him. In fact, she didn't dare to tell Bai Lihua about this, because, "Xingyan, I know I've let you down, but I really need money." Chapter 777. If you need money, why don't you earn it yourself? Qin Xingyan asked. Don't talk to your father like that. And Zaheo leaned against Qin Xingyan's elbow, trying to stop her from saying something wrong and making him feel even worse. Am I wrong? I've always thought that my father went missing when I was 6 years old because he got into an accident and couldn't find his way home. Isn't it good for me to keep thinking like that? Qin Xingyan asked the man that hadn't shown his face for many years with tears in her eyes. In reality, for a person to suddenly disappear without a trace, it was definitely not an accident. This was something that Qin Xingyan had understood many years ago. Xingyan, I know you're a big celebrity and you have money. I beg you, please save your brother. If I had a choice, I would never appear in front of you. The man looked old and wore reading glasses. He held onto the quiet son in his hands and did not want to let go of him for even a second. Qin Xingyan remained silent. After quite some time, Zaheo finally said to Father Shin, "You can go home for now." Father Shin understood that it was difficult for Qin Xingyan to accept all of this, so he sighed and left the apartment with his son. Why? If you didn't have any expectations for your father, you wouldn't feel so bad. Stay at home, I'll go see if he has a place to stay. Qin Xingyan originally wanted to tell Zaheo not to worry about anything, but as the words reached the tip of her tongue, she couldn't find the words. In the end, she simply said, "I'm going to work." After Zaheo escorted the father and son to the hotel, he paid for their room. Father Shin looked at Zaheo. After entering the room, he almost knelt in front of Zaheo. "I beg you, please persuade Xingyan to help me. With all due respect, you haven't fulfilled your responsibilities as a father to Xingyan. So, you have no right to ask Xingyan to do anything for you." Father Shen was well aware of this, so he finally stood up. "Are you trying to force us to our deaths? How much do you want?" Father Shen froze for a moment before he replied, 1 million. This is my son's medical report. I can agree to give you the money, but I have one condition. I want you to leave Xingyan and her mother's sight from now on. As long as I can save my son, I will stay far away from her from now on. Shen father promises. And Zaheo confirmed the medical report and threw it to one side. Actually, he really wanted to say that as long as it was something that could be solved with money, he didn't want to talk to these people about his true feelings. After all, people who could abandon their wives and daughters had no such thing as true feelings. However, he did not know that his generosity this time had led to a very big disaster. The next morning, Tongning and Mo Ting boarded a flight to the Maldives. The babies were temporarily handed over to Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling. Now, the two mothers were as close as sisters and Bai Lihua often stayed at the Tang family home. The two families were like a family. This time, Qin Xingyan did not tell Tongning about the Shen father because she didn't know how to bring it up. She was also afraid of hurting her mother a second time, so she only mentioned it briefly. Tongning did not take it to heart. So, she had no idea that Qin Xingyan was about to experience such a huge pain. 2 days later, Qin Xingyan was recording a show when a huge car accident happened in Beijing. A middle-aged man was driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, resulting in a 7-car collision. 2 people died on the spot, 3 were seriously injured and 4 were lightly injured. The news quickly found out the background of the man. His name was Chen Tianhao, and according to the police, he was the father of the popular artist, Qin Xingyan. That day, Zaheo went to discuss Qin Xingyan's endorsement deal, so Little Seven stayed by her side to take care of her. The police then contacted Little Seven. As soon as Qin Xingyan finished her show, Little Seven immediately said, "Something's happened. I'm afraid we'll need to go to the police station." "What's wrong?" Qin Xingyan thought something had happened to Inzaheo. But when Little Seven showed the news to Qin Xingyan, she was shocked, but she pretended to be cold. "What does his car accident have to do with me?" "But the police want you to go to the police station immediately. There is an unknown amount of money in Uncle Chen's bank account that the police want to verify." "What kind of money?" Qin Xingyan had no idea that Inzaheo had given money to Father Chen, so she looked at him confusedly. After arriving at the police station, as soon as Qin Xingyan stepped into the lobby, she was grabbed by the victim's family member. "Give me back my parents' lives. Give me back my brother's life." Although Qin Xingyan understood how they felt, what did this matter have to do with her? "I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with me." "How could it have nothing to do with you? You're the daughter of the culprit. I've lost my father since I was 6 years old. All these years, I've been an orphan. What do you want me to take responsibility for?" Qin Xingyan asked. "No shouting is allowed in the police station. Qin Xingyan, come in for questioning." Seeing the commotion outside, the police stepped out and yelled as they led Qin Xingyan into the interrogation room. "Do you know what happened to your father?" The police asked. "I've heard that your father contacted you a few days ago." "I have no father." After a short pause, she explained, "That day, he suddenly asked me for money and asked me to save his son, but I ignored him." "But what do we do with the money that was transferred from Inzaheo's account?" the police officer asked. Qin Xingyan received the receipt from the police and confirmed that it was indeed from Inzaheo. There was no mistake. This idiot, why was he cleaning up after her behind her back again? Did you know? Because of this money, Chen Tianhao bought a luxury car, drank, gambled, took drugs, and got into fights. There was nothing he didn't do. And because of this money, he had the capital to commit crimes. He bought drugs, drove drunk and harmed 6 families at the same time. After hearing this, Chen Xingyan's eyes grew wide in shock. She immediately said to the police, "That's right, I asked my manager to transfer the money to him because I didn't want him to bother me anymore. But I simply transferred the money. Did I break the law? In the end, I thought he did it to save someone. I had no idea that he had other intentions." The police glanced at Qin Xingyan and shook his head helplessly. "I'm afraid your conscience will never be at peace for the rest of your life." Qin Xingyan's tears immediately rolled down her face. But she quickly wiped them away and gave Bai Lihua a phone call. In the end, she simply said to the police, "Listen to the police." Chapter 778. Chen Xingyan's father is worse than a pig. A person like him should be sentenced to death. With this, it's impossible for Qin Xingyan to continue in the entertainment industry. It's so embarrassing to have a father like this. He's going to be a stain on her for the rest of her life. He took drugs and drove drunk. The person like this should be torn to pieces. If even her father is like this, it's obvious that Qin Xingyan isn't a good person. Qin Xingyan sure is unlucky. I heard that her father went missing when she was 6 years old. It wasn't easy for him to reappear, but he ruined his daughter's future. That's right, Qin Xingyan knew that because of this incident, she could no longer continue in the entertainment industry. In fact, she couldn't drag Inzaheo and Mo Ting down with her. So, after the police finished their interrogation, Qin Xingyan walked out of the room and bowed apologetically in front of the family. "I apologize on behalf of my father. I hope that you can forgive me. I will do my best to make up for the harm that your family has suffered, even though I know that material things can't save a precious life. Don't even think about it. Don't expect me to forgive you." "No," Qin Xingyan replied. "I'm not going to beg for mercy on behalf of my father. I will leave everything to the law. I simply want to apologize to everyone for what I did wrong." The family remained agitated. They even approached Qin Xingyan, tugging on her clothes and slapping her across the face. At this time, Inzaheo rushed over and immediately separated Qin Xingyan from the crowd. He then shielded her behind him, Chen Xingyan is also a victim. She lost her father when she was 6 years old. Now that she's finally reunited with him, the first thing you do is ask for money. If you want to cause trouble, you should be looking for the culprit. The family gradually calmed down. Meanwhile, Chen Xingyan left the police station under Enzaheo's protection. I will find a lawyer. No need, Chen Xingyan replied. Take me to Hyatt Regency. I want to be alone. Xingyan. I will never appear in the entertainment industry again, and I will never be the superstar that you think I am. With this stain on my past, I will forever be the daughter of a murderer, Chen Xingyan said in seriousness. So, let's cancel our contract. What do you mean? Enzaheo's expression suddenly turned serious. I want to break up with you, Chen Xingyan said with a sob. Chen Xingyan. I'm serious. I don't want to stay in this industry anymore. I'm really tired. I want to go abroad with my mother. I want to find a place where there's no one around. Chen Xingyan said as she held back her tears. And you can't give up everything in front of you to leave with me. So, let's break up. He never expected that Chen Xingyan would break up at a time like this. You're just tired. I'm more serious than ever. Chen Xingyan looked at Enzaheo with determination and said, I want to break up. There's no turning back. Even little Seven, who was driving, couldn't help but break when she heard this, much less Enzaheo. Chen Xingyan, let me tell you, we promised not to give up so easily. Yet, you're going to go back on your words. Yes, Chen Xingyan replied with a trembling voice. Little Seven, stop. Enzaheo did not force her. He remained calm on the surface, but as soon as little Seven stopped the car, he immediately got out of the car and left without looking back. Xingyan, why are you doing this? Little Seven asked helplessly. Chen Xingyan couldn't hold back her tears as she said, You don't understand. Enzaheo had already done enough for her. This time, he simply gave her $1 million to clean up after her mess. If Enzaheo was to find out that the money he transferred out was used by the Shen father to commit crimes, he would never be able to live in peace for the rest of his life. Since someone was going to get hurt, she was going to take responsibility for it. Enzaheo was ambitious and capable, while she simply wanted to be a stunt double. So, their value was completely different. Above all, the public couldn't know that Enzaheo was the one who transferred the $1 million. Otherwise, it would be a huge blow to Enzaheo. She knew that she was still young, but it didn't mean that she couldn't take responsibility. After returning home, the first thing Chen Xingyan did as soon as she saw Bai Lihua was pounce on her and burst into tears. Mom. It's okay, my daughter has grown up. It's okay. Honestly, it's not a big deal. We can simply go door to door and apologize and beg for forgiveness. It's not like it's my daughter's fault. Xingyan, you've made Mom proud. We can't drag President Amo and Ning Jie into this. Chen Xingyan said as she sobbed. Okay, we won't drag anyone into this. We'll take responsibility ourselves. Bai Lihua never expected Chen Xingyan to be so brave. This gave her a lot of strength, so the mother and daughter agreed to take responsibility together. At this moment, they were each other's strongest support. After alighting from the car, Enzaheo headed straight for the police station. He wanted to know what had happened to cause Chen Xingyan's attitude to change so much. Seeing that the person in question had arrived, the police repeated everything that they had told Chen Xingyan to Enzaheo. In the end, Enzaheo found out why Chen Xingyan had broken up with him. This girl seemed to have grown up all of a sudden. She shouldered everything on her own. In the end, Enzaheo said to the police, I lent you a fruit knife so that you could peel some fruit, but you ended up using it to kill someone. Should I take responsibility? I did indeed transfer $1 million to Chen Tianhao, but I don't think I should take responsibility because we were also victims. Today, Chen Tianhao used $1 million to kill someone and the police came looking for us. What if he made a huge contribution? Would the police give us a reward? Lastly, when Chen Tianhao swindled the $1 million, he presented us with the child's medical report. As a police officer, you are more adept at using morality. But, I'm sorry, neither Chen Xingyan nor I will take responsibility for this. Plus, the main focus of this case was drug abuse and drunk driving. I'm sorry, but this money was obtained legally, so we do not need to take responsibility. That's all. After speaking, Nzaheo left the police station. He knew that at this time, Chen Xingyan was focused on protecting him and would not listen to anything he had to say. She was indeed the dumbest idiot in the world. Because Chen Xingyan knew that Nzaheo was willing to go bankrupt for her and was willing to do even more for her. So, Nzaheo did not rush to contact Chen Xingyan. Instead, he went to look for information on the victim. To prevent the mother and daughter from getting hurt, he was going to be very busy from now on. As soon as Tongning and Ting received the news from overseas, they decided not to take a few days off and rushed back to Beijing. Chapter 779. After returning to China, Tongning originally wanted to have a chat with Chen Xingyan. But the mother and daughter did not want to cause trouble for Ting and Tongning, so they went into hiding. Why would they hide from something like this? After all, it wasn't their fault. Because of this, Tongning specifically visited Nzaheo's apartment. However, as soon as she entered the love nest where the couple had once lived together, she couldn't help but sigh. It doesn't feel good to be abandoned, does it? Aha! Nzaheo was sitting on the sofa drinking wine. He was dressed in a set of gray home clothes and looked relaxed. But I understand her. Honestly, she doesn't want to drag me down. But the truth is, I didn't handle this matter well. In that case, what do you plan to do? Tongning asked as she sat opposite Nzaheo. I can't let her lose her career as an actress. Even if she wants to quit, she needs to do it on her own accord. I can't let her do it because of pressure from the outside world, Nzaheo replied as he sipped on his wine. We have watched Xingyan get to where she is today. You played a huge part in turning her from a naive little girl to the person she is today. Tongning stood up and walked over to Nzaheo. She then patted him on the shoulder. I originally thought you would give up. But, seeing you like this, I'm relieved. Tongning, I actually need Ting to show his attitude. He has never publicly acknowledged Xingyan's identity, but if he doesn't want to, I won't force him, Nzaheo said. Although Xingyan doesn't need it, she needs power at the moment. Don't worry, I'll make arrangements. After speaking, Tongning left Nzaheo's apartment. Sometimes the world was just so unfair. You were kind and innocent, and you didn't think you had done anything illegal, but because of your family, you had to bear a burden that you couldn't bear. How many people in the world were silently suffering from the pain of their family? Tongning couldn't let Chen Xingyan suffer like this. Even if Chen Xingyan and that man had an irresistible blood relationship. But what did she do wrong? After returning home, Tongning discussed with Ting, we need to find Xingyan as soon as possible. She shouldn't be the one to lower herself. Most importantly, Ting's mother was also involved. How could he let Bai Lihua bear the consequences of the jerk's actions? So, Ting gave Lu Che a phone call. Immediately find out where my mother and Chen Xingyan are. After you find them, bring them back. Chen Tianhao had killed a total of 2 people, a middle-aged man and a young man. As for the other 2 people that were seriously injured, one of them had a special identity. He was the son of a Beijing government official. He had gone out with his friends to play, but no one expected such a tragedy to happen. Chen Tianhao was definitely not going to escape this time. But Bai Lihua and Chen Xingyan, who had been dragged down by him, had to face reality. Chen Xingyan and Bai Lihua, Chen Xingyan, Li Xingyan, 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 Yan Li, Tian Xingyan and Xingyan, to Xingyan, Xingyan, Chen, to Xingyan, they were to Xingyan, Chen Li, Chen Li, Chen, Yan, comma, I. Yang Thi, XAU. Don't let my husband die with grievances. This was the middle-aged man's wife. She was extremely agitated. As soon as she saw Chen Xingyan, she grabbed her by the collar and began to hit her like she did at the police station. But Chen Xingyan did not retaliate. Madam, if you want to hit someone, hit me. Don't hit my daughter. Stop pretending to be merciful. Why are you putting on an act? Get out of here. Get out. The middle-aged man's wife kicked the 2 out. From the looks of it, It was impossible for them to forgive her. Of course, Qin Xingyan understood how they felt. But what could she do? If she could bring someone back from the dead, she would be willing to sacrifice her life for it. Afterwards, Qin Xingyan and Bai Lihua went to another home. Of course, they received the same treatment. There was no difference. But they still insisted on going to the hospital to visit the other 4 seriously injured patients. One of them was the official's son. Did you think that buying a few things and apologizing would make up for the loss of my friend's life? Let me tell you, it's impossible. I want you to carry this guilt for the rest of your lives. We're not going to plead for that person. We simply want to show our sincerity, Bai Lihua said patiently. There's no need. Unless you kneel down, don't expect me to forgive you. The man was sitting in a hospital bed with either bandages or a cast on his body. His family was even more exaggerated as they called the media to expose him. Look, this is the idol of your industry. His father is a murderer. A person like this needs to be dealt with seriously. His entire family should pay the price. Are you saying that if we kneel down, you'll forgive us? Kneel down first. The family yelled at Bai Lihua and Bai Lihua. Although Bai Lihua and Qin Xingyan were already prepared to be humiliated, when it actually happened, they still felt angry and wronged. All sorts of emotions intertwined with each other. But, even so, Bai Lihua still wanted to kneel down. But at this time, a man suddenly appeared behind her and held her up. Auntie, please stand up straight. Qin Xingyan and Bai Lihua looked at Zhao in shock. They never expected that he would be willing to get involved in this mess. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't need to apologize to anyone. What do you mean I didn't do anything wrong? Her father killed someone. The family member's voice was sharp and shrill. But, Zhao turned around and replied. As you know, her father killed someone. Doesn't she need to pay him back for killing someone? That's right, she doesn't need to pay him back. There's no law in this country that states that the son should pay for the sins of the father. Whoever hits someone will naturally pay the price. She didn't do anything wrong, so I can't allow her to be humiliated and trampled on like this. And Zhao's voice was powerful. We deeply sympathize with the shock and pain that you've suffered. We will give you our sincerest apologies and compensation, but we will not accept personal attacks and insults. After all, the mother and daughter are also victims. Her father went missing when she was 6 years old. As soon as he returned, he ran into someone. Who can she complain to? The family member glared at Zhao but did not say another word. At this time, Lu Che followed Mo Ting's instructions and found the mother and daughter to take them back to Hyatt Regency. Chapter 780. Who allowed you to suffer on your own? Tongning couldn't help but feel sorry for the two of them. Don't tell me that in your hearts, we are people that are willing to watch our family get hurt for the sake of our pride? Qin Xingyan glanced at Mo Ting, who was sitting there like a king. She didn't want to drag Mo Ting down from his pedestal because of her. She didn't want Mo Ting and Tongning to be criticized because of that jerk. Tongning understood what Qin Xingyan was thinking, so she subconsciously glanced at Mo Ting. Mo Ting received a look from his wife and said calmly, even if you sincerely apologize, you still need to be accepted. From now on, before you do something stupid like this, you need to go through me first. Otherwise, all the lawyers I've hired will be useless. Qin Xingyan did not say a word. If you really don't want to drag me and Ningjie down, the right thing to do is to call Lu Che's phone or tell your manager. You are still young, but they are experienced. If someone else was teaching her a lesson, Qin Xingyan may have expressed her own thoughts or argued with Zhao. But, after hearing Mo Ting's lesson, she felt a sense of fear. The fear was naturally born from within her. From the very beginning, she had always respected Mo Ting. I understand. Did you really think that we would be dragged into this mess because of some gossip? Don't you think we're too weak to withstand a single blow? Seeing Mo Ting express his stance, Tongning said to Qin Xingyan in a serious tone, you sure tortured Zhao. When I went to look for him, he was still drunk at home. From now on, when you do things, be more relaxed. You need to look up to yourself because you are Mo Ting's sister. From the moment Qin Xingyan found out about her identity, she had been avoiding the fact that she was Mo Ting's sister. She didn't want others to think that she was useless apart from being Mo Ting's sister. But, hearing Tongning mention that she was Mo Ting's sister, she suddenly felt that perhaps she had always been too concerned about other people's thoughts and actions. After all, this was an unchangeable fact. Tongning could ignore other people's opinions because she knew it wasn't true. So, why couldn't she do the same when it came to herself? Also, if you want anything, go ahead and ask him. See if he'll give it to you. Qin Xingyan looked at Mo Ting again without saying a word. Nothing at all. It's because you interrupted my vacation with Ning, which made me very unhappy. For Mo Ting to say this, he obviously saw her as part of his family. So, even though he was blaming her, his words were heartwarming. At this time, the silent Nzaheo couldn't help but speak up. Originally, I planned to let the lawyer handle the matter quietly and try his best to comfort every family member. But, after seeing the way Xingyan and Auntie have been humiliated, I no longer have the intention to do that. Leave everything to Hai Rui. From now on, you just need to take care of her. If something like this happens again, return her to the Mo family and Hai Rui. At this moment, if I were to call Mo Ting the dignified head of the household, no one would object. Of course, if it wasn't for Tongning, he wouldn't have bothered. Of course, Nzaheo said confidently. The place you're living in is no longer safe. Move somewhere else and leave everything else for Ting to handle. Xingyan, get back on track and stop overthinking, Tongning instructed. Afterwards, she said to Bai Lihua, Mom, I still need you to take care of Tang Tang and Guogua at the Tang family home. In reality, Tongning wanted Xia Yuling to chat with Bai Lihua because the two of them had something in common. If it was someone else, they would never be able to understand the pain in her heart. But in that case, Xingyan, don't worry, someone will take care of her. Since Mo Ting had already agreed to handle the matter, there was no need for her to worry anymore. As for Qin Xingyan, after this incident, she believed that her daughter was now capable of thinking independently. So, it was time for her to let her grow on her own. Afterwards, Nzaheo dragged Qin Xingyan away. On this cold winter day, the couple did not return to their previous apartment. Instead, they headed straight to the resort where they used to secretly go on dates. As soon as they entered the room, Nzaheo grabbed onto Qin Xingyan's wrist and forcefully pressed her against the wall. Break up? Can you bear to? Nzaheo glared into Qin Xingyan's eyes. You've always been the one sticking to me. For my sake, you're even willing to give up your acting career. Can you really bear to? I can't. But, you've already done enough for me. I don't want you to feel guilty. After hearing this, Nzaheo suddenly laughed. So, should I laugh at your naivety? Just because you're kind doesn't mean that everyone in the world is as kind as you. Why should I feel guilty? The jerk cheated me out of my money. I have no control over what he does with it. So, why should I feel guilty? You're the only one that's stupid. I won't run away from my responsibilities. But, how could you take responsibility for something like this? But, he's my father, that's not your fault. What era are we in? Do you still believe that a son should repay his father's debts? Nzaheo grabbed onto Qin Xingyan's chin, making it impossible for her to escape his gaze. You should be grateful that you have so many people around you that can shelter you from the wind and rain. Since you're blessed with this, you should enjoy it. Now tell me, do you still want to break up? Can I still go back on my word? I can pretend I didn't hear you, Nzaheo replied. Qin Xingyan suddenly remembered what Tongning said. She mentioned that Nzaheo was drunk at home all by himself, so her heart ached again. From now on, no matter what I say, treat it as nonsense. Don't take it to heart and don't drink. I feel like you're a variable. This won't do. To prevent you from saying the word break up again, I've decided to change my mind. After speaking, Nzaheo lifted Qin Xingyan in his arms, placed her on the bed and pressed his body against hers. You're so heavy, endure it. Isn't this what you want? Nzaheo's voice became heavier. You're allowed to hurt me, but I'm not allowed to hurt you? What kind of logic is that? Qin Xingyan's face suddenly turned bright red. She could feel Nzeheo's hands slowly removing her clothes. Didn't you say that I'm still young? No matter how young you are still mine. Nzeheo lifted Qin Xingyan's hands up high so that she couldn't resist. He then pushed her clothes over her chest and placed a kiss on her lips. Chapter 781. Nzeheo, I'm scared. Qin Xingyan had never been treated like this before, so she had no idea how to react. Her mind wanted to resist, but her body was honest. Relax, leave it to me, okay? Perhaps it was because she already desired Nzeheo, or perhaps it was because Nzeheo's voice was so seductive, but Qin Xingyan suddenly relaxed. Soon, the couple were engulfed in passion. Inside the room, the flirtatious atmosphere continued to grow. However, Nzeheo no longer stopped after a few gentle taps. Instead, his actions became more and more intense as he continued to move deeper. In fact, he even went over the limits. I hope you won't regret it. She was already at this point, so how could she retreat? Their souls had long since fused together. Their bodies were just shells. Even though the first experience was so painful that it felt like her heart was being torn apart, Qin Xingyan still felt a strong sense of belonging. She already belonged to this man. Her first man and the man she loved the most. After the deed was over, Qin Xingyan was in so much pain that she did not dare to move. She simply lay on Nzeheo's chest and quietly enjoyed the intimacy. I never thought doing something like this would hurt so much. Sorry, I'll be gentler next time, Nzeheo comforted as he gently stroked Qin Xingyan's back. Go to sleep, I'll take you to the bath in a bit. Okay. Qin Xingyan was truly tired. After closing her eyes for a moment, she fell asleep. At this time, Nzeheo finally lifted Qin Xingyan in his arms and placed her in the bathtub. He then began to gently brush her hair. However, halfway through the bath, Nzeheo couldn't help but lose control again. This time, Qin Xingyan's experience was a lot better. After the bath, she felt more energetic. By the time she returned to bed, Qin Xingyan was completely exhausted. However, Nzeheo suddenly reached out his arms and hugged her. She was so scared that she quickly dodged. Do you want more? Go to sleep, be good. Nzeheo simply pulled up the blanket. After kissing Qin Xingyan, he also fell asleep. It had been so many years since he had slept so soundly. Nzeheo had probably forgotten about it. All he knew was, it was all because of Qin Xingyan. It turned out he loved this little woman so deeply. That night, Qin Xingyan was extremely happy. Not only because of Ting's acknowledgement, but also because she had finally become Nzeheo's woman, a real woman. However, the impact of the car accident was still there. The next morning, Qin Xingyan went to the studio to film the commercial according to their contract. However, the advertising agency had already replaced the model. We would rather pay for the breach of contract than use an actress that has a murderer as her father. Who would buy our product like this? You haven't settled your father's matter, have you? It doesn't make sense for you to rush out to shoot a commercial. Go home. We don't dare to use you. Although Qin Xingyan had expected to encounter a problem like this, she never expected it to be this serious. When she returned home, she didn't dare to tell Nzeheo. This wasn't just a matter of her pride. Although Qin Xingyan was Ting's sister, Ting had never acknowledged it in the past, let alone after such a huge scandal. Any normal person would try to avoid arousing suspicion, right? Qin Xingyan returned to her normal lifestyle and no longer asked about Qin Tianhao's matter. As for Qin Xingyan's family, when Qin Xingyan came to apologize and discuss compensation, they didn't want it. But now that Qin Xingyan no longer cared, they went around looking for someone and even published a story in the newspapers. It wasn't clear where they found Qin Xingyan's phone number, but they directly called her. Shen, my husband is still lying in the hospital. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Didn't you say that you would pay for his medical bills? Qin Xingyan looked at her phone helplessly. At this time, Nzeheo picked up the phone and said, when she first brought it here, you guys told me you didn't need it. Of course we need it. My husband needs surgery and we need a lot of money. I think you should look for Qin Tianhao. Qin Xingyan and Qin Tianhao no longer have anything to do with each other. Over 10 years ago, the police announced that Chen Tianhao and Bai Lihua had divorced. I'm sorry, but Chen Xingyan and Bai Lihua are not responsible for this matter. The woman seemed to be angered by Enziheo's words as she began to curse. But Enziheo was a seasoned veteran, so he was used to dealing with situations like this. He immediately grabbed his phone and walked into the study room, scolding the woman until she apologized profusely. From now on, if someone calls you again, tell them to look for the police. I understand, Qin Xingyan replied. Seeing Qin Xingyan's depressed expression, Enziheo could tell that she wasn't in a good situation today. So, he pulled her into his embrace. This is only temporary. Okay, Qin Xingyan nodded her head. No matter what the public said about her, she had to believe that Mo Ting and Tang Ning would solve the problem perfectly. The victim's family tried to contact Qin Xingyan, but she didn't get a response. So, they had no choice but to call the police station. However, the police had already investigated Qin Xingyan's family and found out that Qin Xingyan had indeed lost her father when she was 6 years old and that Chen Tianhao had only recently appeared. Not only did he ask Qin Xingyan for money, he even used his sick son to swindle money. The police were also aware that Qin Xingyan had personally visited the victim's family to beg for forgiveness, but it seemed she had been hurt quite a bit. Although Chen Tianhao is Qin Xingyan's biological father, he has indeed not fulfilled his responsibilities as a father. So, it's impossible for us to ask Qin Xingyan to pay for what he did, especially since he even visited us to apologize. What about my husband's medical fees? You can find a lawyer and ask Qin Tianhao to pay for what he did. When Qin Xingyan visited, you refused and even hit him. Although I understand how you feel, Qin Xingyan is also innocent. At first, when the police heard that Qin Xingyan was a celebrity and that Qin Tianhao was driving drunk on drugs, they naturally thought that the father and daughter weren't pure. But, after the truth was revealed, Qin Xingyan didn't do anything wrong. So, why should she take responsibility for her father's mistakes? The victim's family was helpless. Begging the police was useless. They assumed that the police had been bribed by Qin Xingyan and Qin Tianhao. So, they contacted the media and tried to use public opinion to ask for money. Qin Xingyan's previous visits were all an act. Afterwards, we couldn't get in touch with her. Her father committed such a heinous crime. Did she think that by hiding she would be fine? Qin Xingyan needs to come out and explain herself. If Qin Xingyan doesn't come out and explain herself and show everyone her attitude, we will make sure she doesn't even have a moment of peace. Chapter 782. But, over the past few days, Qin Xingyan has returned to work. According to my friend, she was preparing to film a commercial, but she was replaced. Now that the matter has gotten so big, Qin Xingyan sure has a big heart. If something like this happened to me, I would definitely not show my face in public. How scary would that be? I don't think this matter will be resolved easily. Let's just wait and see. When Qin Xingyan can no longer handle the pressure, she will definitely step out and apologize. This was a conversation that Qin Xingyan overheard in the bathroom of the audition venue. It was a discussion between people in the industry. At the time, Qin Xingyan was sitting in a cubicle, but she did not retreat. She pretended not to see the people in the room as she walked past them and calmly washed her hands and tidied up her makeup. The woman felt embarrassed that she had been caught. Seeing how calm Qin Xingyan was, she realized that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. So, she quickly avoided Qin Xingyan and left the bathroom. This film was recommended by Tang Ning, so Qin Xingyan came to audition. Although a lot of people were pointing at her, Qin Xingyan's mentality was no longer the same as before. If they wanted to talk, then talk. It wasn't a big deal. After all, she wasn't going to lose a single piece of flesh. Look, it's Qin Xingyan. How dare she come to audition? One of you, hurry up and give the victim's family a phone call. Tell them that Qin Xingyan is doing a good deed by coming here for an audition. That's right, let's teach them a lesson. Someone had secretly called the media, and the media had quickly notified the victim's family. In reality, Qin Xingyan was already prepared for this. But when the victim's family arrived at the audition, she still felt extremely upset. Her emotions were complex. It was a mixture of guilt and dissatisfaction. It was hard to describe. My husband is currently lying in the hospital and his condition is unknown. How dare you come here for an audition? You even want to act in a film? Do you think a jerk like you is worthy? Plenty of people were watching the show without any intention of stopping the woman from dragging Qin Xingyan away. After all, they were the ones causing trouble. So, the show was bound to be spectacular. But while everyone expected Qin Xingyan to be extremely embarrassed, the truth was she remained calm. Madam, your husband's life or death is unknown. You should look for a doctor or the perpetrator. What's the point of looking for me? Don't even think about it. Chen Tianhao is your father. Now that your father is in trouble, you're trying to push the blame away. I'm sorry, my father disappeared when I was 6 years old. I can't bear any responsibility for a father who has never done his duty to me. If it were you, would you be willing? Even so, you can't change the fact that you are related by blood. The man seemed to be holding on to Qin Xingyan and demanding an explanation. In reality, he simply wanted money. There are a lot of people related to my father by blood. I'm not the only one. You only rely on me because I'm a celebrity. Do you think I earn more? Qin Xingyan asked coldly. I've already visited you with the intention of solving the problem. But how did you treat me? Slap me and tell me to scram? I'm sorry, I have something to attend to. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. After speaking, Qin Xingyan turned to leave, but the man held her back. Don't even think about leaving. You need to explain everything to me today. Should Qin Xingyan take responsibility? This was probably the biggest topic of discussion. How many people were waiting to see Qin Xingyan make a fool of herself, including the vampire-like reporters? Qin Xingyan was completely surrounded. Even though Little Seven tried his best, he couldn't pull Qin Xingyan out of the crowd. However, at this time, Enzaheo and Lu Che arrived at the audition with a bodyguard and a lawyer. The first thing they did was complain about the building's security. What a bunch of trash. They want Hai Rui's help to fix things up, yet they let just anyone in. Everyone looked at Lu Che and Enzaheo, including the reporters. They quickly moved aside to allow Enzaheo to smoothly walk over to Qin Xingyan. However, Lu Che and Enzaheo were not in a rush to get even with someone. Instead, they brought the lawyer over to the victim's family and said, "From now on, if there's anything related to Qin Xingyan, I suggest you look for a professional lawyer." Originally, Hai Rui was going to give you a humanitarian compensation out of sympathy. But, since you've been causing a scene like this, I'm sorry, but Hai Rui will have to withdraw this plan. So, what awaits you is bad news. You won't get a single cent. Hai Rui's here. Oh God, Hai Rui's people are here. We can't hide anymore. Let's get out of here and stop watching the show. Some people took advantage of the chaos to leave the scene. But Lu Che did not give them a chance to escape. As for who leaked the news that the second miss was at the audition, Hai Rui will investigate as soon as possible. Our second miss has never treated herself as a part of Hai Rui. But, don't forget, President Mo hates it when people bully his family. As for Qin Tianhao's accident, Hai Rui will provide a public explanation. As for our second Mrs. current situation, you don't need to worry about it. If anyone else wants to cause trouble for the second miss, I'm sorry, President Mo will send her a lawyer's letter. Hai Rui's lawyers have never lost a lawsuit before. We welcome anyone to break our record. After speaking, Lu Che and Enzaheo prepared to escort Qin Xingyan away. But the victim's family member questioned Lu Che, "You're protecting a criminal." Madam, you need to understand that the criminal is currently on trial. For the sake of fairness, Hai Rui has warned our lawyers not to defend someone like Qin Tianhao because we also believe that he deserves to die. Madam, don't you think that's enough? Let me put it this way. Our second miss has never had a father since she was young. I hope everyone can ask yourselves this. If you were in her shoes and were in the same situation, would you take responsibility for a father like her? If you can't do it, then don't use another set of standards to judge others. That will make you look like a hypocrite. So, "Madam, how do you think we are protecting a criminal?" The victim had nothing to say, but she couldn't accept it. He could only stare at them as they left, but there was nothing he could do. As for Chen Xingyan, this was the first time that she had been publicly acknowledged as the second miss of the Mo family and Mo Ting's sister. Mo Ting's way of doing things had always been strong and ruthless. So, Chen Xingyan felt that there was a reason why so many people respected Mo Ting. "Second miss, from now on, this is how we will address you. As for you, you should stop belittling yourself. If you come across someone like that, you should fight back. If she can stand by her side until the end, then I'll admit defeat. Because there's no logic to it." Chapter 783. With Hai Rui's strong protection, Chen Xingyan slowly became more confident. After all, Chen Tianhao had done something unforgivable and it wasn't her fault, so she didn't need to feel guilty. After Hai Rui stepped out to protect Chen Xingyan, the gossip within the industry decreased by a lot. Even if someone wanted to gossip, they no longer dared to do so in front of the person in question. To suit her new identity, Chen Xingyan made some changes and became more assertive. She was well aware that in the industry, having a strong background would make life easier for the people around her. Afterwards, Hai Rui announced the entire story. Chen Xingyan lost her father when she was 6 years old. As soon as her father returned, he immediately asked for money. No, he was trying to scam her. Chen Tianhao did indeed have a son and he was seriously ill. So, when Zhehao and Hai Rui revealed this series of evidence, Chen Xingyan's situation was pitiful. The people in the industry couldn't help but think of themselves. If Hai Rui hadn't protected Chen Xingyan, she would have been screwed over by Chen Tianhao's scumbag father. Being an artist wasn't as glamorous as the public thought. There were many times when an artist's family became their biggest enemy. So, someone in the industry couldn't help but step out and say something. Actually, no matter how you look at it, you can't blame Chen Xingyan. Having a murderer for a father isn't glamorous. But, having a big brother like Chen Xingyan's life has been enriched. With Hai Rui's protection, Chen Xingyan will naturally be able to escape unscathed. "Everyone, you can leave now." In reality, Hai Rui had indeed compensated the victim's family. But it didn't include the family that made Chen Xingyan kneel and demanded money from them. Hai Rui wanted the public to know that they shouldn't play any tricks in front of the emperor of the entertainment industry. Mo Ting's lawyer wasn't hired for nothing. Most importantly, Mo Ting's attitude was clear. A reporter stopped him and asked for his opinion on the matter. He simply replied, "I think my opinion is already reflected in Hai Rui's actions. Although Chen Xingyan's surname is Chen, she is still a Mo family member. I hope you all remember this and never forget it." Mo Ting's words spoke louder than 1,000 words. Even if there were people that weren't happy, they had to endure it. With a brother like this, Chen Xingyan's path would be a lot smoother from now on. There are a lot of award ceremonies this year, and many organizers have sent invitations. Are there any that you would like to attend? Not long after, the couple moved to a new home and moved into a villa near Hyatt Regency. Although it wasn't as luxurious as the place that symbolized the rich and powerful, the environment was protected by Hyatt, so it was much safer and more secluded than most villas. "I want to see Chen Tianhao," Chen Xingyan suddenly said to Zhehao. There was a hint of pleading in her voice. And Zhehao knew that Chen Xingyan still had a knot in her heart. Chen Tianhao had been gone for so many years. Where did he go? Why did he abandon the mother and daughter? She really wanted to know the answers to these questions. So, after a moment of silence, Zhehao nodded his head and said, "I'll arrange it for you." "Thank you, Zhehao." Because of Hai Rui's intervention, Chen Xingyan finally managed to extricate herself from Chen Tianhao's accident. The media did not dare to drag Chen Xingyan back into the mud again, so they changed the focus. Of course, Chen Tianhao's incident still attracted a lot of attention in Beijing. After all, he had caused a huge accident, so Chen Tianhao naturally couldn't escape death. On the night that Chen Xingyan went to visit him in prison, she still had work to do. Originally, she was filled with anger and grievance, but as soon as she saw Chen Tianhao, all of it disappeared. Through the glass, Chen Xingyan did not pick up her phone. Instead, Chen Tianhao trembled as he pleaded, "Xingyan, save me." At this moment, Chen Xingyan felt like all her secrets were no longer important. "My brother has already comforted the people that you injured. As for your seriously ill son, he is already receiving treatment. But he will be sent to an orphanage soon. As for you, you deserve to die, don't you think so? I am your father. How could you be so heartless? Just wait for your death, Chen Tianhao. Originally, I wanted to ask you why you abandoned me and my mother. But after seeing you in this state, I feel like I should thank you for abandoning us. This is a form of release. Xingyan, listen to me. Don't go." However, Chen Xingyan felt that there was no point in continuing the phone call. So, she directly put down the phone. People often told people that no matter what their family did, they should be forgiven. After all, once they died, they would have nothing left. But she still chose not to forgive. Chen Tianhao looked at Chen Xingyan in despair. She was his only hope. He thought that Chen Xingyan wouldn't watch as he was executed. Chen Xingyan actually stood up and left. "Daughter? Xingyan, you can't leave me like this." "Xingyan, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shouldn't have taken drugs and drank. Xingyan, save me." On the way home, Enziheo held onto Chen Xingyan's hand, afraid that she would catch a cold. "Are you still feeling unwell?" The thought of him dying is indeed unbearable. But he deserved it, Chen Xingyan replied in seriousness. Afterwards, she took a deep breath and regained her composure. "What's done is done. I need to get over it as soon as possible. I don't want something like this to continue to hurt me and my mother." "You are now the doted princess of Hai Rui," Enziheo replied in seriousness. Enziheo couldn't help but nudge her head. "From now on, don't be so stubborn. Focus on acting and walk your own path." So, Chen Xingyan never expected that she would receive a small award. Although it wasn't a very prestigious award, which artist didn't start off with something small? Of course, Tang Ning was an exception. Seeing Chen Xingyan so happy, Enziheo was also happy. Even though he had never cared about an important award like this. In the future, I will be able to receive even more and better awards. Speaking of which, the Fei Tian Awards has already started voting for the audience's favorite drama. If you have some time, you can ask your fans to vote for The Forensic Concubine. Ning Jie doesn't need my fans. Chen Xingyan had already paid attention to the awards. Although the Best Actress award was still unknown, Tang Ning was definitely not going to lose out on the most popular award. However, Tang Ning didn't really care about the most popular award. As Survivor was about to start filming, Tang Ning's mind was completely focused on the new film. During this time, Guogua became sick more and more frequently. Chapter 784. Bai Lihua gave Guogua a checkup. Because of his immune system, Guogua's body was a lot worse than Tang Tang's. This difference would slowly become apparent as he grew up. As a result, although Guogua and Tang Tang were twins, they were destined to walk different paths. Tang Ning officially joined the cast of Survivor before the Fei Tian Awards. Previously, Guogua's illness wasn't serious. It was just a common fever that children often had. But one afternoon, Bai Lihua felt that something wasn't right. So, she immediately gave Mo Ting, who was still working at Hai Rui, a phone call. "Immediately send Guogua to the hospital. Something doesn't seem right." Mo Ting put down his work and headed straight home. He then instructed Lu Che to arrange for a specialist. As soon as he arrived at the hospital, Guogua was immediately given a full body checkup. In the end, the diagnosis was that Guogua's lungs were congenital dysplasia and needed long-term care and careful protection. Otherwise, the problem with the lungs could be serious or minor. It could even lead to a premature death. "Mr. M.O., why don't you contact our expert in pediatrics, Dr. Tan? She is beautiful and specializes in treating children. However, she is currently overseas and will only be back in a few days." M.O. Ting's handsome face darkened as he looked at Guogua, who had finally fallen asleep. Bai Lihua replied, She then asked Mo Ting, should we tell Xiaoning? After Survivor finishes filming, I will personally tell her, Mo Ting replied. He knew that if he told her at this time, she would immediately leave the set and return home to take care of Guogua. That's good, Bai Lihua nodded. Let's wait for Guogua to stabilize a little before we see what happens. This time, Guogua's fever lasted for 2 whole days. On the day that he was discharged, the expert Dr. Tan happened to return to China. As soon as she heard that Guogua's condition was the same, she rushed straight to the hospital without even packing her luggage. She was indeed young. She was only 28 years old, but she often appeared in medical magazines and received many awards. She loved children, so she studied pediatrics in the US. After returning to China, she began researching difficult diseases in children. Guogua's condition isn't that serious, but he needs to be brought to the hospital regularly for checkups. We understand, Dr. Tan, Bai Lihua replied. What about his mother? Tan Suling asked as she turned to ask Bai Lihua. Xiaoning doesn't know about this yet. Although Tan Suling didn't follow the entertainment news, she had heard about Tongning's gossip. So, she nodded her head, I know your family are all public figures. Even so, I suggest Mom bring you along next time. Okay, Bai Lihua nodded. Afterwards, Mo Ting left the hospital with Guogua. Of course, not many people knew about this. I have to say, hybrids are really beautiful. Although Bai Lihua knew that it was not the right time to bring this up, she couldn't help but sigh at the thought of Tan Suling's beauty. She's a doctor too. Not bad. If I had another son, I would definitely tell him to woo her. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply carried the sleeping Guogua in his arms. As the head of the household, it was hard to tell what he was thinking. Bai Lihua could roughly guess what Mo Ting was thinking, so she replied, I know what you are thinking. You are afraid that Xiaoning will worry and that she will abandon her life because of Guogua. I'm not worried, but she'll definitely do it. But, you shouldn't hide it from Xiaoning for too long. She is Guogua's mother. As a mother, how can she be kept in the dark? Plus, Xiaoning is such a meticulous person. As soon as she returns home, she will definitely notice that Guogua is different. I will naturally tell her after filming, Mo Ting insisted. She's already given up enough for me. But, as a mother, she had a telepathic connection with her child. So, that night, Tongning gave him a phone call and asked about the babies. In particular, she asked if Guogua had a fever again. Mo Ting replied honestly that Guogua was indeed a little sick, but he had already recovered. After hearing this, Tongning remained silent for quite some time. The next morning, she applied for leave from filming and returned home. Only after seeing the 2 babies were lively and energetic did she relax. Mo Ting quietly hugged Tongning from behind and placed his chin on her shoulder. Why did you suddenly come home? I dreamed that the babies had a fever. I have to see them to be at ease, Tongning said gently. Plus, the filming hasn't been very intense these few days. If we move to the mountains, I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to see the 2 of you again. Silly. Mo Ting was well aware of how much Tongning loved the 2 babies. Ting, record a few more videos of the babies every day and send them to me. I don't want to miss them. I can take the 2 babies with me to supervise the filming. Are you crazy? The conditions on set are so tough. I don't want you and our son to suffer. Plus, the entire crew would be a laughing stock. Don't worry, I won't be filming for too long. Plus, as soon as I have time, I will immediately return. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply hugged Tongning tighter. Only God knew how much he wanted to see her. As a father, he was naturally afraid. But Tongning seemed to have sensed it. So, she actually returned home and stood in front of him at the exact moment he wanted to see her the most. Do your best. The Fei Tian Awards is about to start. Hai Rui will take care of everything, don't worry. Last year, it wasn't easy for her to win the Best Newcomer Award. But this year, Tongning was aiming for the Best Actress Award. With so many good films and outstanding performances, Mo Ting was certain that Tongning would definitely win the Best Actress Award. Daddy Ting, you seem a little strange today. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply placed a kiss on her lips. Although Tongning appeared to believe Mo Ting's words, she still approached Lu Che after returning to the set. Of course, Mo Ting hid the truth well. Even Lu Che had no idea about Guoguo's condition. Soon, Tongning moved to the mountains. At this time, the Fei Tian Awards released the nominees for their awards. Naturally, Tongning was nominated for the Best Actress award. But at this time, Guoguo suddenly fell sick again. Did Tongning not come again? Tan Suling noticed that Mo Ting was the one taking the babies to the hospital again, so she subconsciously developed a prejudice against Tongning. No matter how important your acting is, it can't be more important than your child. After hearing this, Mo Ting furrowed his brows. This time, he simply treated it as the doctor's concern for Guoguo. But if she continued to say anything bad about Tongning, he was not going to remain silent anymore. His fever is worse than before and his immune system is weakening. From now on, don't bring him out. Also, remember not to let him get exposed to the wind. Tan Suling noticed Mo Ting's displeasure, so she did not say another word. After Mo Ting left, she turned to her assistant and said, "It's rare to see a man in the entertainment industry that cares so much about his family and child. Unfortunately, Tongning isn't a good mother. She spends all her time trying to please the audience, yet she doesn't put any effort into her own child." Chapter 785. I know, right? Her own child is sick, yet she's filming outside. Wouldn't her child hate her in the future? As doctors, apart from their lives, nothing else mattered. Because whether you were the world's president or a beggar, you couldn't escape death. You needed medicine, injections, and hospitalization. So, even if Tongning had a good reason, they still felt that it was disrespectful for a mother to not be by her side when her child was seriously ill. Tan Suling did not say a word. She simply pulled out her phone and searched for Tongning's name. News of Tongning winning the Fei Tian Best Actress Award was all over the internet. Let's see, she's about to win another award. After seeing the news, Tan Suling put away her phone with a gentle smile and focused on her next patient. She had already heard about the relationship between Mo Ting and Tongning. The couple seemed to have a good relationship. But why was the father the only one that appeared when their child was sick? Plus, Mo Ting did not mention a single word about Tongning while the child was seriously ill. Could it be that they were putting on an act in front of the public? Tan Suling thought about it for a moment. She had seen too many families like this. Everyone was simply taking what they needed, so there was nothing to be surprised about. She simply felt bad for the child. However, a man like Mo Ting probably wanted to find a perfect woman to give birth to his child. He had no shortage of women. In reality, Mo Ting was afraid that Tongning would miss the children, so when Tongning moved to the mountains, he decided to visit her on set. That day, Tongning had just finished filming and there wasn't a single spot on her body that was clean. As she watched from afar, Mo Ting carried the children and smiled at the father and son. As soon as the crew saw this, they immediately said, "Tongning, I've never seen you smile like this since you first joined. Only President Mo gets this kind of treatment." "Ningjie, President Mo is carrying your children. Who else is there? Why are there two?" "Oh, they're probably both mine. Because I gave birth to twins," Tongning replied with a smile. A few of the small-time actors covered their mouths in curiosity before they raised their thumbs at her. "You're amazing. You've never announced this to the public. Help me keep this a secret." After speaking, Tongning didn't even have time to change her clothes as she walked towards the father and son. Meanwhile, the other members of the production crew had never seen the iron-blooded Mo Ting appear on set with a child in his arms. A scene like this was hard to imagine. It was clearly such a strange thing, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he felt that it was so harmonious and natural, making him feel unusually warm. Why did he suddenly come? "Go wash up and get changed. We'll wait for you in the room," Mo Ting said. "All right." Tongning nodded her head. The couple quickly disappeared from sight with the babies. But this scene made everyone on set extremely envious. One look and you can tell that President Mo and Ning Jie are in love. Didn't you see the way President Mo looks at Ning Jie? His gaze is gentle and doting. It's simply too gentle. Who didn't see it? I'm so envious of Ning Jie. Plus, she has 2 adorable babies. She's definitely a winner in life. As Tang Ning had slowly solidified her position in the industry, after joining the cast of Survivor, she received a lot of care. Everyone subconsciously treated her with respect like a big sister. Of course, this was also because Tang Ning was someone that deserved to be loved and respected. After entering the room, Tang Ning quickly washed herself up. Without even bothering to cover up the cuts on her body, she directly approached Mo Ting and the babies. Mo Ting had already noticed the blood on her waist. Seeing that she didn't take it seriously, he put down the babies and pulled her into his embrace. Are you hurt? This film is quite dangerous, Tang Ning replied honestly. I already tried my best to protect myself. What happened today was just an accident. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply gestured for her to take out the first aid kit and helped her disinfect it. No matter how small the wound is, you still need to treat it properly. Otherwise, it will leave a scar. Tang Ning looked at the 2 rascals crawling around on the bed and couldn't help but hug them in her arms. As for her wound, she left it for Mo Ting to treat. We will be moving into the dangerous jungle tomorrow. I may not be able to return home for 2 months. I've already applied for leave from the Fei Tian Awards for you. Mo Ting helped her treat her wound and put down her clothes. You don't need to worry about the babies. Okay, Tang Ning nodded, but her gaze did not leave the babies for even a second. I'll come pick you up on the day that you finish filming. I also have something to tell you. Mo Ting had no intention of hiding this from Tang Ning for too long. Okay. Tang Ning nodded her head. Don't worry, I will take good care of myself. After the couple's brief reunion, Mo Ting returned to Beijing with the babies. Lu Che waited in the car. Otherwise, Mo Ting wouldn't have been able to take the babies so far on his own. That night, Tang Ning followed the crew to their new location. But along the way, her mind and heart were filled with images of the father and son trio. She couldn't even focus on the script. Ning Jie, you're actually amazing. It's not easy for an actress to reach this level. Trust me, Survivor will definitely help you win the title of Best Actress. One of the actors on set comforted after seeing her silence. Noticing her silence, the other actors on the set tried to comfort her. Actors may enjoy the best resources, but they also have to sacrifice a lot. For example, privacy and time spent with family. Endure it for a bit. 2 months will be over very quickly. While Tang Ning was moving to another location, Long Jie arrived with some good news. She had given birth to a baby girl in the hospital. As soon as the baby was born, it looked like it was going to be her mother. She was round and cute. Tang Ning was happy for Long Jie. After all, she had always wanted a baby. Now that her wish had finally come true, she was definitely overjoyed. However, Lu Che's parents simply flew over to see the mother and daughter before leaving in a hurry. That night, Long Jie noticed that Lu Che's eyes were red. Lu Che did not say a word, but Long Jie felt something wasn't right. After all, she understood Lu Che. Do mom and dad not like their daughter? Long Jie subconsciously thought of this possibility, so she asked cautiously. Don't overthink it. I'll be happy no matter what you give birth to, Lu Che replied as he held the Lu family's little heiress in his arms. Did I guess right? Long Jie never expected. Although her mother-in-law had never pressured her in this area, her disgust was so obvious. You're being stubborn again. The person you want to spend the rest of your life with is me. Before you got pregnant, I already made it clear to you, why must you try to please them? In reality, Long Jie didn't know why either. Perhaps, it was because of the inferiority complex that emanated from her bones. Chapter 786. Every year, the Fei Tian Awards was extremely competitive. But this year, no one doubted Tang Ning's acting or the box office. Whether it was The Lost Relative, The Forensic Concubine, or the currently filming Survivor, everyone had a common understanding. Tang Ning's productions were always the best. But the forensic concubine gave everyone an even bigger surprise. Mo Ting played the male lead, allowing everyone to see a different Mo Ting, a Mo Ting that could do anything. On top of that, with Mo Ting's guidance, Qing Lan's character became more realistic and full of emotions. As a result, the forensic concubines broke all records for television dramas. So far, it was ranked #1 on all the charts. This was undoubtedly a good year for Tongning. Not only did her film do well in the box office, she had just become a mother, she was younger than before, and she even starred in a film with Mo Ting as a couple. Tongning is definitely going to win the Best Actress this year, right? I don't think there's any suspense. If she doesn't win, then it would be unfair. It was like, all of a sudden, the people in the industry began to differentiate Tongning from the average actress. Everyone had a scale in their hearts. Tongning's hard work and acting skills were obvious to all. This was an indisputable fact. But, just before the Fei Tian Awards was to be presented, Guoguo was once again admitted to the hospital with a high fever. This time, Tan Suling asked Mo Ting, "Why didn't you notify Tongning?" Although Guoguo only has a fever every time, it doesn't mean he doesn't want his mother by his side. "Doctor, you're being too nosy," Mo Ting replied. Tan Suling calmed down for a few seconds before she began to help Guoguo cool down. Even if it's a marriage of convenience, you shouldn't just give birth and not care for your child. Don't tell me you don't have any feelings for the child you carried for 10 months? My wife isn't abandoning the child. I simply didn't tell her. If Dr. Tan insists on mixing in personal feelings, then I can simply switch hospitals, Mo Ting replied coldly. You shouldn't be getting involved in other people's family matters. Tan Suling nodded her head. After she helped Guoguo's fever reduce, she said to Mo Ting, "I simply feel bad for the child. It's not your turn." After saying these 3 words, Mo Ting carried Guoguo and left. Just as he was about to step out of the door, he said to Bai Lihua, "Mom, prepare to switch hospitals." The thing that Mo Ting regretted the most was that he never thought about raising a medical team. Ever since he found out that Guoguo's body was weak, Mo Ting searched all over the world for an authoritative pediatrician to help alleviate Guoguo's pain. Although Tan Suling was emotional, she was indeed a professional when it came to pediatrics. But even so, he still did not want to see this doctor who was prejudiced against Tongning again. For Mo Ting, there were only 2 types of people in the entire world: Tongning and others. Xiao Ting, it's about time you told Xiao Ning. Seeing Guoguo in so much pain, Bai Lihua couldn't help but feel her heart ache. You should know that no matter how attentive a father is, there are some things that a mother can't do without. I know what to do, Mo Ting replied. The Fei Tian Awards were just around the corner and Tongning was about to return home. But there was still a third of the time until the filming of Survivor ended. In reality, the public paid close attention to the Fei Tian Awards every year. After all, it was one of the most prestigious awards in Beijing, and the films and actors that were chosen were always won over by the public. As expected, Tongning was one of the most popular nominees for the Fei Tian Awards this time. So, discussions about her were quite intense. Even the doctors and nurses at the hospital would watch a couple of episodes of The Forensic Concubine during their lunch break to satisfy their cravings. Seeing this, Tan Suling's expression darkened. Don't let me find out that you guys are watching this boring drama at work again. The nurses were a little helpless. Tan Suling had never objected to it before. Why was she suddenly so angry? Tan Suling seemed to know what the nurses were thinking, so she explained, no matter how successful she is as an actress, she is still a failure in my eyes. Someone that doesn't even care about her own son has no right to give birth to a child. The nurses smiled awkwardly. They felt that Tan Suling was being a little too controlling. Guoguo has been seriously ill 3 times, but she hasn't visited even once. Have you guys ever seen a mother like this? Dr. Tan, that seems to be a family matter. Tan Suling glared at the nurse before she turned and left. In reality, even Tan Suling felt that she was overreacting. Why was she so angry at Tongning's irresponsibility? Perhaps it was because she felt that Tongning wasn't worthy of being loved by others. If she could be so terrible as a mother, It was obvious that she was just putting on a show in private. But Dr. Tan couldn't be telling the truth, right? Tongning and Ting's child has been seriously ill 3 times? And Tongning hasn't visited even once? Could it be the legendary marriage of convenience between the two of them? The kind where they do things on their own? Stop making wild guesses. The two of them are so close. That's impossible. In that case, why do you think Dr. Tan is so angry? The 3 nurses began to discuss the matter at the nurses' station. They had no idea that Ting had instructed them to keep this a secret. But, of course, the root of the problem was Tan Suling. Although she was a professional, she had a low EQ. She always thought she was great and righteous. Of course, it was just a discussion between the nurses, so the matter wasn't about to blow up. But just because it didn't happen today, it didn't mean it wouldn't happen tomorrow. It was already late at night. Ting sat in the study room thinking for a long time. In the end, he picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. Ning. At this time, Tongning was in the middle of filming a night scene. Even so, she did not miss Ting's call. What happened? Why aren't you asleep yet? Guoguo is not well, Ting replied straightforwardly. Recently, he's been having a high fever and his immune system has been declining. After hearing this, Tongning felt her mind go blank. Is it serious? Is he still having a fever? He's been sick a few times, but his condition is stable now. Don't worry, Ting understood that Tongning was planning to return home immediately. Ting could tell that Tongning was planning to go home immediately, so he quickly comforted her. I played with Tang Tang for a while, she has already gone to bed. Don't rush home. Stick to the original plan and you will be home the day after tomorrow. Chapter 787. Tongning couldn't wait 2 days, so she directly asked for a day off. After hearing about Tongning's situation, the director agreed to her request. But as he let her go, he said in a serious tone, Tongning, it's normal for children to get sick. Plus, President Mo will be there to take care of them. But, you are the female lead of this film. Every day you miss is going to cost you a lot of money. So, I can agree to your request. But there will be no next time. Tongning understood the director's difficulties, so she nodded her head apologetically. I will take responsibility for any consequences. Okay, go ahead then. The Fei Tian Awards ceremony is almost here, so I'll give you an early break. As long as Tongning was willing to take responsibility, the director was willing to do her a favor. After all, Tongning did have her reasons. Tongning rushed home that night. The first thing she did as soon as she entered the house was to make sure Guoguo was fine. Seeing that he was sleeping soundly in his crib, she let out a sigh of relief. Ting heard a noise and stepped out of the bedroom. Seeing Tongning standing in front of the crib with a cold aura, he quickly grabbed a clean towel and wrapped her up. I told you not to worry. What if you catch a cold after coming home like this? I told you not to worry. How could it be so easy? Tongning said as she held onto her cheeks. Only then did she feel her hands turn cold. Go take a hot shower. Ting carried her into the bathroom and filled the tub with warm water. After watching her get into bed, he gave the director of Survivor a phone call. President Mo. Tongning already told me before she left. It's fine. After the Fei Tian Awards ceremony, she will return on time. As for any losses caused by her absence, I will take responsibility, Ting said responsibly. As long as Hai Rui shows their sincerity, it won't be a problem for Tongning to leave for 2 days. Don't worry. The director knew how to weigh the pros and cons. After all, if Tongning wasn't around for 2 days, she might not even finish filming her supporting roles. Even so, he still had to act like he was in a difficult position. Otherwise, Tongning would assume that the crew had no rules. Not long after, Tongning stepped out of the bathroom. Seeing that Ting wasn't in the bedroom, she assumed he was still in the study room. Tongning remained silent for a moment. She knew she couldn't add to Ting's burden right now, so she lay down on the bed and tried to relax. It didn't take long before Ting returned to the bedroom. Knowing that Tongning wasn't asleep, he immediately hugged her from behind and whispered, I've already arranged for Guogua to do a more thorough examination tomorrow. Don't worry, okay? The newly formed medical team is also on the plane. They will arrive in Beijing soon. How weak is Guogua's resistance? Tongning asked as she flipped over and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck. Previously, the doctor said that I might fall sick often. Because my immune system is low, there are all kinds of possibilities. After hearing Mo Ting's words, Tongning fell silent. She didn't feel good, but she accepted reality. After quite some time, she finally calmed herself down and said to Mo Ting, "Hurry and get some rest. Guogua is already sick. You can't be too tired." Mo Ting knew Tongning had a strong heart. Even though she was worried, it wasn't enough to make her lose her composure. The next morning, Tongning and Mo Ting sent Guogua to the hospital. Although the annoying Tan Suling was at the hospital, it was still the best pediatrics hospital in Beijing. It didn't take long before Guogua underwent another thorough examination. Apart from his weak immune system, he was also diagnosed with pneumonia. Because of Mo Ting's request, Tan Suling wasn't the one to treat Guogua this time. Even so, the nurse still suggested to Mo Ting, "Mr. Mo, Dr. Tan is indeed our authority. People from all over the country come to visit because of her reputation. So, I suggest you go see Dr. Tan." After hearing this, Tongning was a little confused as she looked at Mo Ting. "Why don't you go see Dr. Tan?" Mo Ting remained silent without a word. Seeing this, the nurse explained, "Dr. Tan is a very individualistic person. She is warm-hearted and can't stand seeing parents mistreat their children. Plus, you haven't been by Guogua's side the past few times, so she has developed a prejudice against you. So, just because of that?" Tongning didn't mind as she immediately asked the nurse to call Dr. Tan. "Ting." "Okay." Mo Ting knew what Tongning wanted to say. Mo Ting knew what Tongning wanted to say. If worst came to worst, he would just ignore Tan Suling when she arrived. Soon, Tan Suling arrived at the entrance of the emergency department. This time, she finally got to see Tongning. At first, she did not say a word. But when she saw Guogua's report, she finally said, "Your child is so sick, yet you haven't been by his side all this time. I'm afraid you can't absolve yourself from the blame. You should know that you are now a mother. Since you're going to have a child, you should be responsible for him. Is acting and becoming famous that important?" Tongning did not refute as she accepted Tan Suling's blame. She then asked patiently, "Dr. Tan, can you please treat Guogua? With a mother like you who doesn't care about him, I can't treat him." Tongning did not explain and did not say another word. Seeing that Mo Ting was about to explode in anger, Tongning quickly held him back and comforted him for a few seconds. "I think Dr. Tan should put aside her emotions at a time like this. After all, my son is waiting for treatment. Are you aware of your son's condition now?" After hearing Tan Suling's words, Tongning did not continue to beg her. Instead, she gave Xia Yuling a phone call. At this time, she was suddenly reminded of her medical student, Tang Yichen. "Mom, Guogua is sick. Can you help me contact Sister Tu? I'll arrange for Guogua to be transferred to another hospital." Xia Yuling had no idea how sick Guogua was. As soon as she heard Tongning's words, she immediately gave Tang Yichen a phone call. "Are you crazy? Guogua is in such a critical condition right now, yet you're asking him to be transferred to another hospital?" Tan Suling immediately scolded. "You're indeed not good at being a mother." This time, no one could stop Mo Ting. He directly waved at the nurse. "Get the hospital chief here." The nurse was shocked, especially when she saw Mo Ting's dark expression. She had no choice but to turn around and rush over to the hospital chief's office. "Even if you get the hospital chief here, it won't change the fact that Tongning isn't a good mother. You're being too nosy." Mo Ting said straightforwardly, "If you like to make assumptions, you don't need to be a doctor. You should get your brain checked first. Mr. Mo, watch your words." Mo Ting did not say another word. He couldn't be bothered to respond. In all seriousness, the couple had never seen such a nosy doctor. Soon, Tang Yichen arrived at the hospital. Although Tongning rarely interacted with her, they were still sisters. So, Tang Yichen directly grabbed Guoguo's report from Tan Suling's hands and looked at it. She then said calmly, "You can transfer Guoguo to another hospital. Brother-in-law, it's your turn to make the arrangements." After hearing this, Ting immediately turned and left. At this time, Tan Suling asked, "Who do you think you are?" Chapter 788. I've long heard of Dr. Tan's reputation. Now that I've seen you in person, you truly live up to your reputation. What an idiot! Tang Yichen said as she squinted her eyes at Tan Suling. You may be professional, but your EQ is 0. Before you treat your child, I suggest you go home and find out how to improve your EQ. Tang Yichen had already seen Tan Suling's medical research and knew that she was a perfectionist. However, she was too idealistic and didn't understand the difficulties of others. Her mind was filled with assumptions. She felt that children were the most important and that parents needed to be by their side to take care of them. In addition, she often felt that children were the most precious thing in the world and that adults should unconditionally give way to hopeful children. What right do you have to lecture me? Tan Suling asked as she scanned Tang Yichen up and down. Because I'm currently an associate professor in pediatrics and you're merely a specialist, Tang Yichen said as she pulled out her credentials. In reality, Tan Suling was indeed strong in her professional field. This was something that Tang Yichen had to admit. But Tan Suling's personality was a little off. As a result, even though she was famous, her status and abilities were lacking. As soon as Tan Suling saw her credentials, she reluctantly kept her mouth shut. Afterwards, the group left the hospital. Halfway through their journey, Tang Yichen said to Ting and Xian, "You guys don't pay much attention to the medical field. That's why you were so flustered when Guoguo was sick. Why didn't you give me a call as soon as possible?" Although Tan Suling's hospital is indeed the best pediatrics hospital in Beijing, even if the child recovers after she sees him, the parents will definitely fall sick from anger. I've already assembled the best medical team. Guoguo doesn't need it for now. Let's send him to the military hospital first. My teacher can definitely treat him. Of course, the medical team is still necessary. You guys should pay more attention to your checkups. Tang Yichen's occupational disease was acting up. Even though the person in front of her was Ting, she couldn't help but say a few words. In reality, in terms of how close they were, Tongning felt that she and Tang Yichen were the two oddities in the Tang family. In the past, when Tang Xian was still around, they didn't have a good relationship. They were considered neutral. Plus, the Tang family had too many secrets, so Tang Yichen spent most of her time in medical school. Up until now, Tongning had no idea that she had already achieved such an impressive feat in her own field. Are you surprised? Tang Yichen asked as she looked at Tongning's blank expression. I just watched the TV series you starred in, The Forensic Concubines. Tang Yichen expressed her concern for Tongning. Of course, it's when I'm bored. You never came to me when you were sick in the past. Let's keep in touch in the future. I don't know. Tongning replied helplessly. Soon, the group arrived at the military hospital. Tang Yichen was currently the hospital's military doctor, so she directly led Guoguo into the surgery room. At this time, a man's voice could be heard. Do you need me for a child's illness like this? Tang Yichen, did I teach you for nothing? So what if he's your nephew? Do as you see fit. Soon, a tall man walked out of the surgery room. As soon as Tongning saw him, she was stunned. It seemed it was rare to see such a handsome man in the hospital. It would be a shame if he didn't become a celebrity. He was obviously the teacher that Tang Yichen was talking about. Originally, Tongning thought that he would be middle-aged, but he was only in his early 30s. He was dressed in a white coat and exuded a strong aura. Coupled with his cool expression and disdainful gaze, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. Compared to Bei Chendong, this man was more like a brother to Ting. What are you laughing at? Ting asked as he furrowed his brows. Nothing. I just suddenly understood why Tang Yichen doesn't want to go home. With such a handsome teacher, if I was in her position, I wouldn't want to go home either, Tongning replied. Is he your type? I was just saying, Mr. Mo. Tongning quickly comforted the jealous man. Plus, based on her woman's intuition, she could tell from the conversation between Tang Yichen and the man that their relationship was very close. Even if they were just teacher and student, there must be a deep relationship between them. Therefore, she was not at all worried that the man would really ignore Guogua as he had said. As expected, it didn't take long before Tang Yichen invited the MO couple into the surgery room. At this time, the man said coldly, "There's no need to be nervous. Leave the child here for a couple of days. Go do what you need to do, Lu Guangli." Tang Yichen tugged on his sleeve awkwardly. She was obviously supposed to be closer to Tongning. But when Tongning saw this, she seemed to understand something. "You need to call him teacher?" Lu Guangli lectured in a serious tone. Tang Yichen glared at him while he looked at the MO couple. Tang Yichen had no choice but to say, "Don't worry, I will take care of Guogua. You guys can go home." Seeing that the two men were unmoved, Tang Yichen added, "It's really just a small problem. In that case, I'll come back in the afternoon to take care of Guogua." "No need," Lu Guangli replied. "As soon as the child recovers, I will notify you to take him home. If the family is here, it will only make things worse for the nurses." After speaking, Lu Guangli once again left the surgery room. "He's just like that, but he's very capable," Tang Yichen explained. Tang Yichen explained on behalf of Lu Guangli, although she has a sharp tongue, her medical skills are better than President Mo's entire medical team. "When was he your teacher?" Tongning couldn't help but be curious. University. You started university at 19. That means you've known each other for 8 to 9 years, right? Tang Yichen did not respond, but Tongning knew what she was thinking, so she did not ask further. "How could we not worry about leaving Guogua here on his own? But, since Dr. Lu insists, we will go home and wait for news. If anything happens, let me know as soon as possible. Don't worry, this is President Mo's first time as a father, so he definitely doesn't have much experience. Children aren't easy to take care of, even if you've been very responsible. So, you don't need to worry about it." Tongning nodded her head and returned home with Mo Ting. However, as soon as they left the hospital, Mo Ting asked Lu Che to investigate Lu Guangli's background. After Lu Che did a background check, his eyes grew wide in shock. After all, it was quite surprising for someone to have accomplished so many great feats in the medical field at such a young age. However, no one expected that Tongning's argument with Tan Suling at the hospital would become a huge entertainment news story. Chapter 789. Shocking! Her son was hospitalized 3 times, yet Tongning did not appear at the hospital even once. Rumor has it that Tongning doesn't have any feelings for her son. Her marriage with Mo Ting was simply a mutual benefit. The best acting for a marriage of convenience. Tongning has put all her skills into deceiving. According to the latest news from Entertainment Weekly, actress Tongning has been revealed to have no feelings for her son. While she was filming, her son was hospitalized 3 times, but she was never seen at the hospital. It seems she doesn't care about her son's health and is rumored to have a marriage of convenience with Mo Ting. After finding out about the situation, our reporters immediately headed over to the hospital where Tongning's son was previously treated. In the end, they found out from the hospital that their son had indeed been seriously ill multiple times and had only seen Mo Ting, not Tongning. It seems the rumors of a marriage of convenience aren't baseless. Not only that, we also interviewed the doctor that previously treated Tongning's son. As for the truth, please take a look at the video. The hospital has a duty to keep the patient's information confidential. So, I don't have the right to say too much about my son's illness. But, during the few times my son was hospitalized, I did not see his mother. I only saw his father, Tan Suling said calmly in the video. As for whether Tongning loves her son or not, I'm afraid only she knows. If Tan Suling's first sentence didn't have much meaning, then the second half of Tan Suling's sentence had a deeper meaning. It was obvious, there was a hidden meaning behind her words. Tan Suling's words also had the intention of deliberately causing misunderstandings. I'm not in a position to comment on anything else. Thank you. As soon as the video was released, everyone felt that Tongning couldn't possibly have done something like this. After all, it didn't fit her image. But the doctor at the hospital had personally confirmed that while her son was sick, not only did Tongning not take care of him, she did not even appear at the hospital. Could it be that the image that she had created in the past was all fake? This inevitably caused the mother fans to feel annoyed. In their hearts, Tongning was already a mother. Even if she didn't take care of her son, she should at least visit him when he was sick, right? But she didn't. She deserves it. Her son was so sick at that time, yet she still forcibly transferred her son to another hospital. Just because Dr. Tan from our pediatrics department had a problem with her, she completely disregarded her son's health and transferred him away. Although our Dr. Tan's words are a little harsh, she is definitely thinking about the child. She just can't stand irresponsible mothers. If they don't take care of the child, why did they give birth to the child? Public artists these days are getting worse and worse. For the sake of benefits, they can sacrifice anything. All in all, the outside world was filled with vicious words towards Tongning. Seeing this, Ting flew into a rage for the first time in his office. In the past, he had never paid attention to the medical industry. Who would have thought the industry was just as messy, twisting right and wrong? Seeing that Ting did not say a word, Tongning could tell he was definitely furious. So, she gently held onto his hand, trying to calm him down. I didn't do a good job in public relations and didn't protect your reputation. I should have told you earlier. I've weathered so many storms. Why would I be afraid of this? Tongning shook her head with a smile. Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's head and pressed her onto his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll get justice for you. This PR wasn't easy to do. After all, doctors were a special group of people. The words that came out of their mouths were always authoritative. After all, a doctor's responsibility was to save lives. If there was a problem, they could say it as it was and it didn't involve stealing resources. So, there was no need to deliberately slander Tongning. On top of that, modern people were under a lot of pressure, so most people were more or less paranoid. So, it was understandable that they would naturally think the worst of others. Afterwards, the director of Survivor gave Ting a phone call. President Tongning's incident has blown up a lot. You need to quickly deal with it before it affects the entire crew's reputation and progress. Don't worry, Ting replied with two simple words. Tongning remained calm as usual. Apart from asking Tang Yichen about Guoguo's condition over the phone, she did not take the incident to heart. After being slandered so many times, she was already used to it. Ting knew that if Hai Rui stepped forward, it would seem like they were trying to justify themselves. So, he thought of Tang Yichen. After seeing the news, Tang Yichen expressed her disgust towards Tan Suling. Even if Ting didn't make the arrangements, she would still speak up for Tongning. Guoguo is currently in the military hospital. He simply has a fever because his immune system is weak. He isn't seriously ill or on the verge of death like the rumors say, Tang Yichen said as she released Guoguo's medical report. Secondly, I need to clarify why Tongning transferred Guoguo to another hospital. Firstly, Guoguo had a high fever and mild pneumonia. At that time, Tongning invited the attending doctor, Mr. Tan, to treat him. But, because of his own emotions, Mr. Tan scolded Tongning. Tongning did not respond the first 2 times, but the doctor actually said something like, I don't want to treat a mother like you. Since she didn't want to treat him as the mother, Tongning naturally wanted to find a better doctor. So, she contacted me. Is that wrong? Secondly, regarding the fact that Tongning didn't show her face multiple times, apart from the fact that she didn't treat the child well, could there be another reason? For example, could it be that Tongning didn't know about this matter at all? My brother-in-law is famous for doting on his wife. To prevent Tongning from worrying, he could have taken responsibility for this matter himself. Most importantly, I would like to remind everyone that when a doctor from a certain hospital scolds someone, he should take care of his own image. As a doctor that demands parents to watch over their child 24/7, have you ever considered taking responsibility when you say something like that? As a parent, Which of you can put your child first at all times and not feel tired 24/7? You can believe whatever you want to believe in what I've said today. But those that spread rumors about my nephew's illness can leave now. Also, please remember to be polite with your words. No matter what the truth was, it was certain that Guguo wasn't seriously ill. Meanwhile, Tang Yichen's words reminded parents that not every doctor was responsible, especially those that had been tortured by Tan Suling. I never thought that this doctor would still be around. Although she's good at medicine, she has a lot of problems as a person. Previously, when my mother took my son to the hospital, she insisted that my mother stay by my son's side through the night. She said that she couldn't let her son feel like no one cares about him. Can I say that she's sick? This doctor is really harsh. Tongning must have been wronged. Chapter 790. The Fei Tian Award ceremony is about to begin. I feel like someone is deliberately slandering Tongning. No matter what, they've gone too far this time. Besides, this is a family matter. It's fine if the couple is anxious when their child is sick, but they've even been stabbed in the back by the doctor. It's really unfair. I think I'll wait and see. What if there's a comeback? Nowadays, whenever news broke in the industry, it took a few days to find out the truth. So, it was hard to tell who was right and who was wrong. But Tang Yichen's words indeed angered Tan Suling. It was natural for a mother to take care of her child. So what if the doctor said a few words to a mother? Was her heart made of glass? Couldn't she accept it? A child's weak immune system can be mild or severe. In severe cases, it can even lead to premature death. How is that not considered a serious illness? Plus, he's been sick a few times. I'm asking parents to take care of their children, but I'm not asking you to protect them all the time. Since he's been admitted to the hospital, he must have been sick. If I can't show him some love at a time like this, when will I ever be able to? Plus, it's the truth that Tongning has never cared about her son. I'm not lying. So, why is it that I'm the one that needs to take care of my own image? I've always behaved properly. As Tongning's sister, it's natural for her to speak up for her family. Is he fucking crazy? Even Long Jie, who was in her confinement period, couldn't help but curse after seeing Tan Suling's interview. Is this doctor's brain made of tofu? Who knows? All in all, this battle has already spread from the entertainment industry to the medical industry, Lu Che replied as he sat beside Long Jie and peeled a piece of fruit. Will this affect Tongning's Fei Tian Awards? How will it affect it? Seeing this, Long Jie nodded her head in relief, as long as it doesn't. But, since things had gotten to this point, if Emo Ting didn't teach her a lesson, she wouldn't realize who she had offended. In reality, the hospital chief had long wanted to fire Tan Suling, but he couldn't find a good reason to do so. When a person's personality has a problem and makes the people around her uncomfortable, then she will definitely become the target of public criticism, because countless people will talk behind her back about how bad she is and how disgusting she is. So, taking this opportunity, the hospital chief took the opportunity to speak to Tan Suling. Suling, to be honest, you are very outstanding. After serving at our hospital for so long, your professionalism is undeniable and you are one of the best doctors in the country. But, you have offended Hai Rui this time. Our hospital cannot withstand such a huge storm. So, we would like to ask you to find another job. The dean's words were already polite enough. If it was any other clan, they would have long since flown into a rage. Tan Suling felt that her pride had suffered a blow and that Hai Rui had done something to make things difficult for her. So, she said to the hospital chief, you will definitely regret this. I'm a dignified doctor. I've saved lives and healed injuries. I've treated countless patients. But now, because of that dirty deal, you're treating me like this. It's simply disappointing. Tan Suling didn't only say this to the hospital chief, she also said it to the media. Everything happened too suddenly. I was fired by the hospital because I offended Hai Rui and the hospital didn't want any trouble. Some people laughed at Tan Suling's straightforward personality. She was brave enough to say anything. At the same time, some people felt it was unfair for her. It's not like this is the first time Hai Rui has done this. Being fired is already a light punishment. This doctor is quite pitiful. Who told her to offend Mo Ting? How pitiful. No, Hai Rui can't always use this method to solve problems, but what was the reality? Hai Rui was dumbfounded. From the looks of it, Tan Suling is so unpopular that even the hospital chief can't stand it anymore. As soon as the news broke out, he immediately fired Tan Suling and tried to make Hai Rui take the blame. He sure played his cards well. Our Hai Rui sure knows how to take all kinds of blame. These were Fong Yu's exact words. Making Mo Ting take the blame? It seemed they had found the wrong person. Go visit the doctors at the hospital. I'm sure we'll be able to find some clues and evidence, Mo Ting instructed. Otherwise, Hai Rui would really look like they were pressuring them. Don't worry, we'll have some news very soon. Collecting information wasn't just Lu Che's forte. Fong Yu was also very good at it. Although the incident was caused by Guoguo's illness, this negative attitude had affected Hai Rui's reputation. It didn't take long before Fong Yu received news that the people he had found had enough evidence to prove that there was something wrong with Tan Suling's personality and that the hospital couldn't tolerate it any longer. Did they even want to bully Hai Rui? Afterwards, Fong Yu told Tang Ning about the incident over the phone. After hearing about it, Tang Ning simply said, "Deal with it the way it should be dealt with." After being slandered so many times, she had already calmed down. But that didn't mean she was willing to forgive Tan Suling. Tang Ning's relaxed attitude meant that she allowed Mo Ting to do whatever he wanted. But if Mo Ting were to make a move, then whether it was Tan Suling or the hospital, they would both end up in a bad state. Make an appointment with the hospital chief. I'll personally take a look. As soon as Fong Yu heard this, he felt the show was about to start. So, he did not waste a single second as he pretended to be from a rich family and arranged to meet the hospital chief at a hotel. Meanwhile, apart from Mo Ting, the most powerful entertainment reporter in Beijing was also waiting for the hospital chief. Anyone that provoked President Mo would never end up well. Hopefully, the hospital chief wouldn't end up in such a sorry state. The Fei Tian Awards was just around the corner, so Fong Yu knew that Mo Ting had to deal with everything before the awards ceremony. He wanted Tang Ning to appear at the awards ceremony as the perfect goddess in everyone's eyes. The next morning, Mo Ting made an appointment with the hospital chief. The hospital chief had no idea what was about to happen. He simply thought a rich family had invited him to meet them to discuss their family's condition. But as soon as he pushed open the hotel room door, he was completely stunned. Because, apart from the media, there was only Mo Ting. I think I entered the wrong room. The hospital chief turned to leave because he thought he had entered the wrong room. But Mo Ting held him back. Chief Lin, you didn't enter the wrong room. Mo Ting's voice was deep and alluring, shocking everyone present. Dean Lin's expression turned exceptionally ugly in an instant. Chapter 791. What? If I understand correctly, according to the rumors, I should be very familiar with the chief. But, it seems, Chief Lin doesn't want to see me, Mo Ting said with a smile. Chief Lin hesitated for a long time, but in the end, he had no choice but to enter the room and sit down opposite Mo Ting. But, as soon as he sat down, he felt uncomfortable all over. It was because Mo Ting was surrounded by a black hole of cameras. Above all, when faced with Mo Ting, one glance was enough to make a person feel a sense of fear. He was too dangerous. If Mr. Mo wanted to see me, he didn't need to go through so much trouble. If I didn't go through so much trouble, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to see Chief Lin, Mo Ting said with a hidden meaning. Afterwards, his expression turned cold with a hint of seriousness and danger. I simply want to know what Hai Rui has done to your hospital for you to be so afraid that you want to fire your doctor. That's right, I want to know what Hai Rui has done to your hospital. There are rumors that Hai Rui has pressured you. Chief Lin, has Hai Rui really pressured you? According to Dr. Tan, we have made a dirty deal. After I heard about it, I was very angry. How could an entertainment empire like ours make a deal with someone just to suppress an insensible doctor? I personally don't think Dr. Tan has the right to do that. Chief Lin, what do you think? Chief Lin felt a little embarrassed. He never expected that his words would be leaked to the outside world, nor did he expect that Ting would personally come looking for him. This was completely unfounded. Now that he had been caught red-handed, how was he to answer in order to save his face? I think Dr. Tan has misunderstood. In that case, can Chief Lin tell me why you fired Dr. Tan? That? Chief Lin froze. You can't answer? That's fine, I'll answer it for you. After speaking, Ting pulled out his phone and played a recording. In front of the media, who in the hospital doesn't know that Tan Suling's EQ is notoriously low? She often offends patients' family members and has caused a lot of trouble. The chief has long wanted to fire her. It's not that I don't want to say this, but Tan Suling is crazy. The hospital is in a mess because of her. Previously, Tan Suling had publicly embarrassed the headmaster. At that time, the headmaster already harbored hatred towards her. At least 80% of the people in the hospital want Tan Suling to leave. These recordings came from the doctors at your hospital. From the recordings, we can tell that Tan Suling wasn't liked by anyone at the hospital. So, the hospital chief used the excuse of angering Hai Rui to fire her. Is that right? Of course not. Dean Lin hurriedly denied. Then what's the reason? Ting asked again. However, this time, Dean Lin stuttered and could not give a proper explanation. Tan Suling is venting all her negative emotions on Hai Rui, but we are innocent. What have we done wrong? Ting asked as he put away his phone. Chief Lin, you are bullying the wrong persons. Whether it's me or Hai Rui, your position is correct. You can't afford to offend either of them. Since you can't afford to offend them, you shouldn't have tried to frame them. We won't take the blame for firing Tan Suling. Chief Lin's face immediately turned red and white. If it didn't involve my wife, I wouldn't even want to see a tiny hospital chief like you. If you don't want to clarify the matter, then don't blame me for being heartless. This is what I call a threat. Facing the cameras, Ting was truly angered. Because every word he spoke was filled with danger. As soon as one heard it, they couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. I have no interest in your personal grudges. But I can't allow it to involve Hai Rui and my wife. This last note sounded like an order from the devil. After hearing this, Chief Lin felt he needed to clarify the matter as soon as possible. He didn't want to anger Ting. Mr. Mo, I'm sorry. We were afraid of the rumors that were spreading around and caused a negative impact on Hai Rui. I'm truly sorry, Chief Lin explained sincerely. This matter is a personal grudge between us and Tan Suling. It has nothing to do with Hai Rui. I hope everyone doesn't misunderstand. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's clarify the real reason why we fired Tan Suling. Since this is an internal problem, can you let us handle it on our own? Chief Lin tried to negotiate with Ting. When the public criticized Hai Rui, no one discussed it with us, Ting replied in a deep voice. When the public bullied my wife because of Tan Suling, they didn't discuss it with me either. So, I also wanted to discuss it with someone. Chief Lin had no choice but to let out a long sigh. He then unwillingly explained to the media, our hospital must admit that Tan Suling is indeed a talent, but Tan Suling is also the doctor that our hospital has received the most complaints about. It's not because she treats her patients inappropriately, but because she's never polite to her patients' family members. At the same time, she is also the doctor that receives the most complaints. Because of her personal emotions, she often makes the working environment of her colleagues difficult. That's why the hospital made this decision. For causing the public to misunderstand Hai Rui, I would like to apologize to President Mo on behalf of the hospital. I hope President Mo won't take it to heart. We indeed didn't handle the matter properly and have let down everyone's trust. It's Tan Suling's problem, Ting emphasized. He then continued, at the time, Guguo was sick and I sent him to the hospital. Dr. Tan didn't get to see Tongning, so she hoped to see her son's mother next time. As it wasn't the first time Guguo had a fever and his immune system was weak, I didn't tell Tongning about it. I knew that as soon as she heard that her son was sick, she would immediately rush home. She is the female lead and the core of the entire production. She couldn't just leave the staff to one side. So I hid it from her. But Dr. Tan became biased against my wife because she didn't see her. The final time, Gugwa had a fever. Tongning took time off from the set and rushed home late at night. The next day, she sent Gugwa to the hospital and was immediately scolded by Dr. Tan. That's the entire story. Tongning and I weren't married for show. I love my wife more than anyone else. We were indeed taking what we needed, but what we needed was each other's love. Hearing this, the reporters couldn't help but ask, but if Tongning really fulfilled her responsibility as a mother, why did her son have a weak immune system? Didn't Tongning already have a problem when she was pregnant? Hearing this question, Mo Ting suddenly let out a gentle laugh. Chapter 792. Guogua's development was indeed delayed in his mother's womb. That's why he often got sick, Mo Ting replied honestly. The reporters did not expect Mo Ting to respond in this way, so their eyes grew wide. Could it be that Tongning had never cared about her children's health from the moment she got pregnant? That's because my wife gave birth to twins. All of a sudden, the reporters froze. They felt like they were hallucinating. What did Mo Ting just say? Tongning gave birth to twins? Guogua was discovered a little late and his development was delayed. Unlike his older brother, he didn't absorb enough nutrients, so his immune system was weak. With this explanation, everyone understood. Many people that had given birth to twins knew that sometimes, twins would develop differently in their mother's womb. So, it was normal for the younger brother to be weaker than the older brother. So that's how it is. Tongning actually gave birth to twins and the public never knew about it. Taking care of two children must be tough. No wonder President Mo's heart ached for Tongning and didn't want her to know that her children were sick. The reporters couldn't help but discuss amongst themselves. Does anyone still have any questions? The situation was already clear. Although Tan Suling's medical skills were excellent, she was indeed biased. This was the main reason why she was fired by the hospital. It wasn't like the rumors were saying that the hospital fired her because of pressure from Hai Rui. With so many people complaining about Tan Suling, it seemed she wasn't very likable. So, to prevent Tan Suling from causing trouble, the hospital threw the blame onto Hai Rui, making everyone believe that Hai Rui had done something to harm their pure angel in white. Unfortunately, Mo Ting wasn't an ordinary person and he wasn't someone that would easily take the blame. Who was Mo Ting? And who was Tongning? The two of them never took the initiative to pick a fight. However, even if they were provoked, they would never be afraid. They would definitely get to the bottom of the matter and seek justice for themselves. President Mo, will you release photos of the twins to the public? President Mo, will the twins enter the entertainment industry? Seeing that the questions had nothing to do with the scandal, Mo Ting straightened his suit jacket and stood up from the sofa. The matter was cleared up, but the punishment was not enough. Of course, Chief Lin was already prepared for the hospital to be criticized. But because Tan Suling's morals were indeed damaged, the hospital did not have to bear much responsibility. On the other hand, Tan Suling was in for a hard time. However, something that Dean Lin did not expect was yet to come. Mo Ting personally stepped out to clarify all of Tongning's scandals. He also stated that they were a normal married couple and that they had a pair of twin sons. After this, the truth of the incident was finally revealed. But the public's attention was now on Tan Suling, because they were very curious about what a doctor had to do to be hated by so many people and to be disliked by so many people. Therefore, many people started to look into Tan Suling and found that she really had what the patient's family members had said, that she was a little crazy. A doctor might do his best for his patients, but he also needs to comfort the patient's family members. Don't you think it's strange for a doctor to blame the patient's family members indiscriminately? Such a beautiful girl. What a pity. I always feel that she suffers from severe paranoia. I study psychology. Let me give Dr. Tan my contact details. You really do suffer from a mental illness. When a person is hated by a small portion of people, it can be said that it's because of jealousy. But when a large group of people hate them, then their personality must be flawed. No wonder Tongning transferred the child to another hospital. I understand. Tan Suling never imagined that, in such a short period of time, the situation would turn around like this and she would be criticized by so many people. Father and Mother Tan couldn't help but comfort their daughter. Baby, I've made an appointment with the best psychiatrist for you. Why don't I go with you tomorrow? Mom, even you think that I'm crazy? You are crazy, Father Tan replied straightforwardly. It's a serious case of paranoia. Tan Suling never expected that even her own parents would misunderstand her. So, in a fit of anger, she stormed out of the house. But as soon as she stepped onto the streets, she was constantly being pointed at. Worst of all, she realized that she had no friends at all. There's something wrong with this woman's brain. It's best to stay away from her. She's a doctor, yet she doesn't even know that she's sick. What a joke. Tan Suling felt extremely wronged. After all, she only had one goal in mind. She wanted the best for her child. She thought she was great, but she was misunderstood by the entire world. After this incident, Tongning no longer had anything to slander. After all, everything that could be slandered and everything that could be slandered had already been slandered. Tonight was the Fei Tian Awards ceremony. But, that morning, Mo Ting even stepped out to clear his wife's name. Apart from filming, she was actually a normal person. So, after having a child, she wanted to be treated like a normal person. But, in this industry, she had no choice but to do what she wanted. That evening, Mo Ting returned home. Seeing Tongning sitting on the sofa in a daze, he asked, "Why aren't you getting ready? We're about to set off." Tongning let out a gentle laugh as she stood up and headed for the wardrobe. But, halfway there, she suddenly turned around and said to Mo Ting, "I'm thinking from now on, I should be more open to everyone. For example, when I see the paparazzi, I should greet them naturally." Mo Ting immediately understood what Tongning meant. She should just follow her heart. In order to accompany his wife to the awards ceremony, Mo Ting naturally dressed up for the occasion. He was dressed in a dark blue retro double-breasted suit and his hair was neatly combed. His entire body exuded the aura of an aristocrat. No matter how old he was, Mo Ting was still Mo Ting. There was no trace of age on his face. Soon, Tongning also finished dressing up. She was dressed in an aqua blue dress with stars on it. She looked ethereal and refined. Coupled with the fact that her accessories were all stars, the Tongning at this moment was like the most beautiful scenery in the world to Mo Ting. Let's go. This day was an important day for Tongning. Although she did not show it, Mo Ting could sense her nervousness. Who didn't want the Best Actress award? It had been a year. The image of her fighting for the Best Newcomer award was still fresh in her mind. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed and her old rivals were no longer around. "Why are you trembling?" Mo Ting held onto Tongning's hand on the way there and realized she was acting a little strange. "Because I feel like there might be an accident. I've always been blessed with setbacks." Tongning smiled bitterly. Chapter 793. I won't. Mo Ting held onto Tongning's hand tightly. They had already been married for over 2 years. Their feelings for each other had already penetrated deep into their bones. Tongning was indeed nervous, but with Mo Ting's comforting words, she suddenly relaxed. With this man by her side, it didn't matter if she won an award or not. Soon, the black Rolls-Royce arrived at the Fei Tian Awards venue. At one end of the red carpet, Tongning held onto Mo Ting's hand as they walked up the steps. Because of the couple's appearance, the reporters almost broke through the barriers. Unfortunately, with Mo Ting around, even if they wanted to, they didn't have the guts to do so. Tongning. Mo Ting. Tongning, look over here, Tongning. Daddy Ting, hold onto our Tongning's hand and protect her well. Not too far away, a fan holding up a placard yelled at the couple. Tongning couldn't help but look in that direction and smile. Afterwards, she watched as Mo Ting carried her in his arms. The intimate look on their faces made the fans roar in excitement. Tongning had always lived in seclusion. After she changed careers and became an actress, she barely appeared on any variety shows, let alone accepted any interviews. She had only made an appearance for a few private events. So, it wasn't easy for fans to see her, let alone at an event like this where she and Enchanting were together. The host of the awards ceremony was standing in front of the signature wall. As soon as he saw the couple, he naturally greeted them. However, because of Enchanting's presence, the host did not dare to joke around with Tongning. Because it made them feel like Tongning wasn't here to receive an award, but was instead here to inspect the venue with the higher-ups. Our president Immerse is considerate towards his wife. He's always by her side to protect her. But, as the host of the show, I would like to ask you a question. Can you tell us how your baby is doing? He's doing well. Thank you for your concern, Tongning replied in seriousness. I know that my child's illness has caused a huge commotion and caused a lot of trouble. I'm truly sorry. Tongning's words were filled with remorse. In fact, she spoke with sincerity and even a tinge of grievance. This made the host's heart lift. I believe that as a mother, you've already done your best. No matter who you become, you will always do your best. So, being a mother is no different. We believe in you too. The fans behind her screamed and cheered for her. You are the undisputed queen of the night. In reality, apart from the Tongning couple, there was also a heavenly king who had just returned from overseas and was once popular. It didn't take long before the 1-hour red carpet event ended. At this time, Tongning and Enchanting had already taken their seats according to the instructions given by the organizers. There were indeed a lot of familiar faces present, including Lin Sheng and a few other actors that they had worked with before. Bai Chendong was also on the list. However, he was a very stubborn person, so he never came to events like this. The leading figures in the hosting world spoke wittily on the stage. The opening song and dance performance also invited the most popular music group. Tongning overheard the people around her gossiping about the returning superstar. She then shook the back of Enchanting's hand. It seems there are still things in this industry that I don't know about. Are you referring to the person that is returning to China today? Enchanting asked. I'll tell you about it when we get home, Enchanting whispered gently beside Tongning's ear. Let's watch the awards ceremony first. This year's awards ceremony was quite exciting. Over the past year, there had been a lot of good works and many of them were people that Tongning was familiar with. Even Chen Xingyan received the most promising newcomer award. At this time, Tongning finally noticed that Zhehao and Chen Xingyan were sitting 2 rows behind her. Chen Xingyan held onto his trophy and waved it towards Tongning. Next up, we will be presenting the most important award of the Fei Tian Awards. It's time for the Best Actor Awards. In order to choose the Best Actor, our judges almost fight backstage every year. Next, let's welcome our guest presenter. The guest presenter was an experienced scriptwriter who had won many international awards. His partner was a professional film critic who was also internationally famous. An old man and a young man, one fat and one skinny, supported each other as they walked onto the stage. Afterwards, the old scriptwriter began to speak. When the organizing committee first invited me to present this award, I was quite surprised. As everyone knows, I am a very serious person. If the person that receives the award doesn't meet my requirements, I would have a problem with it and might even reject it. So, I went ahead and looked through the works of all the nominees. I am a very picky person when it comes to stories. As a result, I have high expectations for my actors. If I'm a person that has written for a lifetime, who would be willing to let their painstaking efforts go to waste on an actor? Luckily, the Fei Tian Awards has maintained its fairness. The nominees are indeed impeccable. In this way, I also understand why the judges of the organizing committee worked fighting backstage. On the other side, the film critic also began to speak. The old man is right. A good film is the result of the industry's development. Only a good actor can bring out the best in a good script. As for a film that I agree with, it should be loved by the entire world. It represents the most honest values and contains the most sincere emotions that can resonate with the entire world. A film like this is impeccable, and I happen to know of a film that has a good reputation around the world. In that case, hurry up and tell us, what film is it? The film critic looked in the direction of Enchanting and Tongning before he replied, from what I know, Stupid can't even compare to their own films in Europe and the US. Yet, the latest screenwriting textbooks have already included Stupid as an example. This is the first time this has happened. Speaking of which, I really admire President Mo from Hyrule. As soon as Enchanting heard this, he nodded at the film critic. Alright, let's get straight to the point. Let's take a look at the outstanding actors who have won the Best Actor award this time. Please look at the big screen. After the film critic finished speaking, he directed everyone's attention to the big screen behind him. A moment later, a loud voice sounded from the screen. The winner of this year's Best Actress Faye Tion Awards is. At this moment, the spotlight was focused on the nominees and the atmosphere was extremely tense. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.